Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Forrest Walbert here, and welcome back to another reading live stream. I know a few days ago I did do a Valentine's Day special live reading of two particular books. I'll actually read them again live at their own time, maybe. We'll see. Probably not, but we'll see what happens. In any event, I do have my next book ready finally. So many people probably be wondering, dude, I've been hyping this book up for some time now, to the point where it's not even funny. This book is, in my opinion, one of my top five favorite books that I've read on and off screen, easy. And by the time I'm done reading, I hope everybody, I hope by the time I've reached the halfway mark of this, because it's likely I'll be ending the stream once I reach the halfway mark, as put on by the bookmark here, so that way I knew where the halfway mark is, because I did want to see what time it was by the time I got to that halfway mark. In any event, I am finally ready to read this book, and I hope we all have a good time as I read this, knowing full well it's going to be crazy at some points here. Without further ado, let me actually go ahead and lower the camera down real quick. So without further ado, let's begin with Her Perfect Family by Teresa Driscoll. This book, in case anybody is wondering, came out in 2021, so about 2 to 3 years ago. Prologue. Pink. The daughter looks at her outfit, and suddenly, at this 11th hour, she realizes the color is all wrong. A shaft of sunlight has broken through the crack in the curtains. On its hanger on the wardrobe door last night, the dress looked fine. This morning, in this new and unforgiving beam of light, pink is all at once. The pink is all at once too pink. In the shop mirror a month back, it had seemed softer somehow. Her mother loved it immediately. There were tears, hugs. The daughter sighs at the memory, but is wondering now if there was some trick. If the shop mirror was smoked and they had not realized just how bright the dress would look in daylight, in sunlight, in today's light. She sits up to see her reflection in the mirror across the room. She pinches her cheeks and tries to imagine how the addition of makeup might help, but no. There is no lipstick in the world that can fix this. She gets out of bed and moves to her wardrobe, the bubble of panic in her stomach growing as she holds the dress on its hanger against her frame. She does not want to disappoint her mother. They had such a very lovely day choosing this dress. But it looks so wrong now that she fears today's photograph will haunt her forever. She imagines the picture, framed on the piano at home, the dress forever too pink. And now her phone buzzes on the dressing table, a notification of yet another direct message. He is not who he says he is. She feels the familiar shiver of unease. She badly needs to make this stop, but simply has no time today. She throws the phone onto the bed and looks back at her reflection. It's decided. Sorry, Mummy. She will not wear the pink. She will wear the lemon dress instead. I will occasionally look at the live chats that way, in case somebody says anything that I missed as I read the chapters. Navy. The mother looks at her outfit, and suddenly, at this 11th hour, she worries about her daughter. She stares at the dress and jacket hanging against the shiny white of the hotel's wardrobe door and thinks of her beautiful girl, getting ready all alone at her flat. She takes in the sensible navy of her ensemble. Somehow, in the cold light of this bright and breezy Wednesday, it looks too conservative, too mother of the bride. She turns away, doesn't care. Today is Gemma's day. She imagines standing alongside her beautiful girl in that gorgeous pink dress and feels the punch of pride that has swollen her heart and, yes, her head too, ever since the results came in. A first. Did I remember to tell you? My daughter Gemma, she has a first. She did not go to university herself and has never even been to a graduation ceremony. She turns to her husband who still sleeps, envying his calm. He's from a world where everyone goes to university and doesn't understand her nerves. I should take note before we read the next page that this is just like uh, the Nick and Charlie novella that I read on Valentine's Day. This will have the this is English, but this is more of the British uh, the British variation of the English language, just so we're all clear. So if it seems like I'm saying some weird stuff, now you know. She thinks of the cathedral and the choir and her special girl in that very special pink dress. She imagines it will be the best day of her life. This mother who cannot know in this moment that it is to be the very worst. The very worst. I just want to make sure because I had to repeat that because I had a voice crack going on there. Chapter 1. The Mother. When the trumpets start up, the volume is at a shock. A child near the back of the cathedral starts to laugh and we turn our heads, stiffening our smiles. It is indeed surreal, all this pomp and this pageantry. And yes, loud. It is very loud. I turn back to the front, my ears adjusting as the university hierarchy file in to take up their seats in the choir stalls. They're all in different colors. Rich purple and yellow and red. Different headgear too. Some have velvet caps with gold tassels. Some have fur on their gowns. Others not. I imagine those in the know understand all these sartorial signals of intellectual pecking order. Which color for which university each professor attended. I have no idea. I'm simply wondering how uncomfortable all those hats must be. I smooth the navy dress across my knee and watch as the trumpeters finish at last, and we hear the audience's collective clearing of throats and blowing of noses as the chancellor steps up to the microphone. I feel myself smile again, and for a moment am enchanted and proud and exhilarated by the warmth of the welcome. I listen. I beam. I listen some more. And then, much too quickly, I'm embarrassed to become rather bored. The Chancellor, a tall woman with enormous red glasses, goes on much too long, and soon I am thinking, yes, yes, we all know this. Do please get on with it. I steal a glance at the program on my lap. Gemma is page 4, and I'm wondering, how long per page? There's more coughing and shuffling of chairs. A child crying. The scraping of wood on stone floor as a parent apparently decides to take the weeping child out. I turn to watch them near the back of the cathedral. The child, on his father's hip, looks no more than 18 months, and I wonder if it is a second marriage, or just a big age gap. And how on earth do divorced people manage occasions like this? We were only offered 2 tickets. I turn back to the front. Mainstead is the smallest cathedral not just in the southwest, but in the country, only just scraping its official status. I like that you can see front to back from my vantage point. For some reason, we are in the VIP seats directly in front of the choir stall. No idea how we ended up here, but it's a happy mistake. A great view. Though there are narrow corridors with stone arches beyond the choir stalls, and I can see glimpses of university staff with clipboards. For a moment I think I recognize someone in the distance. Helen's sister. Mandy. Or is it Molly? For the life of me I can't remember, but it suddenly occurs to me that maybe she organized our seats. Mandy, or Molly, is the sister of one of my book group friends, Helen. When Gemma expressed an interest in this uni, Helen very kindly passed on some tips. Her sisters in the comms department gave us some general pointers on the most popular accommodation for freshers, that sort of thing. Nice woman. We met her very briefly at a couple of uni events. On nodding terms no more. Would she have done this? Would she have done this for us? I doubt it. But now I am frowning, reconsidering. I've been going on and on about the ceremony at book club, worried about the seating. So maybe Helen did put in a word. It's the sort of thing she'd do. I glance at my bag, thinking of my phone. I should message Helen later. Yes, if her sister wrangled these seats on the quiet, we should at least thank her. And now the Chancellor is telling us that our sons and daughters, lined up in these anterooms off the rear corridors, are presently graduates, the technical term until they miraculously transform into bona fide graduates once their certificates are in their happy hands. I turn to Ed, who sits alongside me, his shoulders still tight, no longer quite the ball of fury he was when we first took our seats, but he's still cross with me. I touch his arm and whisper again that I'm sorry about the bad atmosphere in the car. He finds a small smile, but as payback will not look at me. But I can tell, even from his profile, he's softening, that I am almost forgiven. Good. It wasn't my fault, the row. Well, not row. We don't really have rows. I'm lucky that way. It's just that I wanted to leave the hotel nice and early as we were supposed to meet Gemma at the dressing tents to see her in her gown and do some photographs ahead of the cathedral. But Ed, who's a great deal more relaxed than me about timings, wanted a full English. Start catastrophizing, Rachel. Catastrophizing, Rachel. Hey, no, that's the right way to say it. And then a lorry with gas canisters decided to burst a tire in my bubble right in front of us on a major roundabout on the way into the city center. Of course, I blamed Ed. I didn't say anything out loud. I just let out this huff, looked away. But the problem with Ed is sometimes he just won't leave things. Spit it out, Rachel. You really saying this is my fault? This lorry? I'm fine. You're not fine. You can't even look at me. Leave it, Ed. I didn't rise to it. The thing is, I absolutely can't stand arguments, and there's no way we need all that. Not today. I just messaged Gemma, devastated to miss the dressing tent. She said no worries, then texted something rather odd. Don't be upset when you see me, Mum. Promise? And now she's had to turn off her phone and I'm in limbo. Puzzled. How could I be upset with her, today of all days? Suddenly there's applause, and I'm pulled back into the moment to see that the Chancellor is at last wrapping up. I clap. Ed claps. Someone else, an alumni, steps forward to take up their position to our far left to hand over the certificates. Someone off the telly, but not A-list famous. I will have to look them up in the program. Gemma did tell me. And now, hurrah! The first glimpse of the graduands appearing in the line through a stone arch off to the right, behind the choir stalls. My goodness, what a logistical feat this is. Gemma told me the briefing was a right palaver. I clap and smile at the first batch as if I know them. There are hoots and whistles from some of the parents, and I love that this is more relaxed than I expected. I can feel tears pricking my eyes. It's all so huge. And then, name after name after name, and my palms are sore already. I realize that I cannot possibly keep up this level of enthusiasm. I simply can't love all these strangers quite this much. I glance down. Good Lord. We are still on page 1. I reduce the quality of my clapping and distract myself by taking in the very different shoes that all the girls have chosen. Some spectacularly high. Gemma has this phobia about tripping in public and has chosen wedges. I need to have something solid to walk on, Mom. I suggested kitten heels, but she was not having that, reckoned it might make her legs look stumpy in the photographs. I think back again to that day when she chose her dress. A gorgeous sunny day. Lunch at the cafe by the river. I feel a sigh leave my body as I picture her in the mirror. That gorgeous shade of pink. I feel tears coming once again, and imagining the moment her name is called. I turn to Ed and he winks. Good. I am properly forgiven. I stretch out my hand and he squeezes it. It takes 15 minutes per page and finally we are on to the fourth. I take in a deep breath, counting the names. One more batch of 6, then her group. I am this ridiculous ball of emotion. Suddenly, there are all these scenes swirling around my brain. The day they put her in my arms. The picture on the fridge of her in the paddling pool with Ed, spraying cold water onto her. I think of the day she got the offer to come here. The scream of delight from her room when she logged on to get the yes even before we picked up her A-level results. And now a pause. Her batch next. I find that I am holding my breath. I trace the names with my finger. Walk, applause, walk, applause, and then at last, Gemma Hartley. I see her appear at the back of the choir stall in her gown and her mortar board, with her long dark hair loose over her shoulders. I take in the neutral shoes and the slightly tan legs. And then there's this little punch of shock as she walks forward. Not the glimpse of gorgeous pink beneath the black of the gown as she moves. I feel myself frowning. I turn to Ed, but he hasn't noticed. It's the wrong dress. I don't understand. The dress is pale lemon. Ed is calling out, "Oh, well done, Gemma!" And everyone is applauding. I am clapping too and smiling now, trying to cover up the puzzlement. Gemma recognizes her father's voice and runs to spot us. She looks down at her dress then up at me with a sort of worried look on her face. I just smile. I don't understand, but I deliberately turn the smile up to a beam. Then she turns towards the guy holding out her certificate so that we are looking at her back as she reaches out her right hand to take her prize. There's this noise from behind the trumpeters, a sort of thud as if someone has dropped something heavy, like a large music book, at the back of the choir stall. It startles poor Gemma, and the very thing she has feared all her life, at sports days and presentations and the like, happens right this moment. She stumbles. My hand is immediately up to my mouth. She is flat on the floor and everyone sort of leans forward. I am all at once mortified for her, and also overwhelmed with love for her. I want to be beside her telling her that it doesn't matter, that no one will care. Just get up and smile. No one will care. A part of me wants to run to her, but I know it will make things worse, magnify her embarrassment. There's a beat as we all wait for her to get up so that we can cheer her on. A signal that it really doesn't matter. But the beat is too long. I stand now, worrying that she may have fainted, or banged her head. 2 professors sitting near her have now moved also. All at once they are crouching beside her. Next they are shouting, "A doctor! We need a doctor!" I am aware only that I am suddenly pushing Ed too. I push past the 3 people seated in my way and reach the aisle just as they say it. "She's been shot!" Next comes the ugly, unimaginable words. A bubble of bile suddenly surrounds me. An ambulance! An ambulance! We need an ambulance! She's been shot! And now slow motion. People screaming. Run! Run! There is a chaotic surge of bodies. Parents and students and ushers too. A starburst of panic blocking my way as everyone rushes to the various doors. I have to shoulder people aside. No longer pushing, shoving. Get out of my way! Out of my way! It's my daughter! I need to get to my daughter! When finally I near the huddle around Gemma, a woman is barking instructions. "Give me some room! I'm a doctor and I need something to press against the wound. That shawl! Give me your shawl!" Someone's handing the doctor a green shawl as I crouched to stroke my daughter's hair. Gemma, it's Mummy. I'm right here, darling. Right here. She's head down, utterly still, and I try again to push the hair back so I could see her face as I take it in. The wrong dress. This dress covered in blood that is seeping into a large and terrifying pool on the stone floor beneath her. Not the pink dress. Not even a lemon dress anymore. Dark red. Everything blood red now. Chapter 2. The Private Investigator. Do you want a flake, sweetheart? Matthew Hill holds out a 5-pound note to the ice cream seller as his daughter, Emily, frowns. It's a simple enough question, but Matthew's learned that nothing in life is simple with a child of Emily's disposition. She tilts her head as if world peace was on the line. Quick, lovely. Love chocolate flake, yes? There are lots of people waiting. The ice cream van's on the high street, and Matthew is shocked by the wheel behind him and the crowds in general. He'd quite forgotten its graduation season. Would never have come into the center of Mainstead if he'd remembered. Emily is off nursery with a stomachache that miraculously disappeared once its stay at home was confirmed. She's starting proper school soon, and they wonder if that's worrying her. She used to love nursery so, and Matthew and Sally are going with the flow, hoping it's not to be a new fad. Emily's good at fads. Yes to the flake, Sal adds suddenly. I'll have it if she doesn't want it. And then, just as the man takes the money, there's suddenly shouting and some kind of commotion off to their right. Run! Run! A male voice, loud and desperate, from the midst of a small group running from the narrow street that leads to the cathedral. There's a gunman! There's a gunman in the cathedral! The speed of the ensuing panic is extraordinary. Very soon there's lots of screaming. More people are running from the alleyway. People on the high street start running too. Matthew feels the familiar shot of adrenaline as he turns to grasp Sally by the shoulders. Right, you need to take Emily out of the city center. Fast as you can. Jog so you don't fall. Go to the Aztec car park on the outskirts. I'll meet you there. The look of horror on Sally's face is like a physical blow. You're not coming? I'll be right behind you. I just need to see if I can help first. No, Matthew, no. You come with us. You come with us now. There's no time, Sally. Just go. I'll follow you. I promise. Soon as I can. A terrible expression sweeps across his wife's face. He can't quite read it and just watches as she pauses for a beat before grabbing Emily's hand and starting to flee. He stares at their backs. Emily crying over the lost ice cream, as Sally scoops their daughter onto her hip and jogs just as he instructed, a strong and steady pace down the high street. There, Matthew turns to push against the tide of people running away from the cathedral. As he forges forward, he puts his phone up to his ear and speed dials the only person he can think of. He prays for the sound of sirens, prays that he won't be needed after all. D.I. Melanie Sanders picks up immediately. What is it, Matt? Emergency here. I'm on the Mainstead High Street. People screaming there's a gunman in the cathedral. That's my emergency. What are you doing there? Never mind. I'm not hearing sirens yet. Why no sirens? Traffic. They're on their way, but it'll be a few minutes, Matt. I just got the call. I'm on my way too. And armed support? What's the ETA for armed support, Mel? A pause. How long, Mel? 10 minutes minimum. Matthew increases his pace. As he reaches the green in front of the cathedral, there's the shock of a crush outside the main door. Some people are running away, but others are standing still, faces terrified, calling out the names of loved ones. Move away from the doors, he shouts. Everyone away from the doors! He presses the phone back to his ear. I'll do what I can, Mel, but it's chaos here. Not on your own, Matt. He hangs up and runs around the west side of the cathedral, avoiding the throng. There's a man in a high-vis jacket, some kind of usher or maybe security, looking completely overwhelmed, standing by a temporary fencing designed presumably to keep the graduation visitors to the front lawn, but which is now making the crisis worse, restricting the flow of people. Get these fences down now so we can get everyone away faster. Matthew kicks one of the temporary barriers over by the way of demonstration. The man in the yellow jacket copies him. As the fence is reduced crash after crash after crash, people start to step and leap over the barriers, which slowly improves the flow. Are all the doors open? Matthew barks. The man frowns. Can't hear him over the screaming. Are all the doors open? Matthew now shouts and the man shakes his head. We locked some to check tickets. Get them all open now. All of them, you hear me? Fast as you can. What's my best way in? I can't get through these crowds. Tower at the back. There's a door by the laburnum tree. It was supposed to be left open for the staff to leave. Suddenly, another man, gray-haired and face desperate, holds on to Matthew's shoulder. Are you in charge? Our kids are in there. The students. Some of them are still in rooms at the back. We can't get to them. How do we get to them? I'm on it. Move away from the crush, sir. Help get this fence down. And get more doors open. Can you do that for me? The man nods. Matthew then jumps the fence on the ground himself and runs around the back of the cathedral towards the laburnum. Sure enough, there is a small oak door with a large black iron handle. Open. Inside, Matthew moves fast through a narrow stone corridor to find himself to the side of the choir stall. This end of the cathedral is almost empty, but there's still a large crush of people at the main door trying to get out. There's a lot of shouting. Some men are urging the women and children to leave, but others are screaming to know where the students are. Where are our children? Are they out? Who's getting them out? In front of him, Matthew sees a small throng of people crouched down around a young woman on the ground in a pool of blood. Instinctively, he looks up, tries to work out where those shouts would have come from. There is an upper gallery with carved shapes in the stone balcony. He watches. No shadows, no sign of movement, but the gunman could still be up there. He realizes what easy targets they are, sitting ducks. He thinks of Emily and Sally and feels this terrible lurch. No choice. No sign of any uniforms yet. He moves out into the open central area and joins the small group surrounding the shot girl. A woman is rolling her over, testing a pulse and doing compressions while instructing someone else to hold the girl's neck in place. The woman's voice is steady and firm. Must be a doctor or a nurse at least. Good. It may be a while before an ambulance is allowed through. At last he hears the sirens, but not close yet. Help's on the way. I'm ex-police. We're going to get you all out of here. Another woman turns to look at him, tears pouring down her cheeks. The mother then. Alongside her is a man, face white. The father. What should I do? The man's voice is breaking. What should we do? Stay with her. Talk to her. Help's coming. Another man steps forward, his face steadier. Marine, a parent. Wife and son are on the way out. What can I do? Another slim, tall woman in a black suit joins them, her face white with terror. We have a lot of students in anterooms out the back. We don't know what to do. Is it safe to bring them through? Two of my ushers are boarded. What should I do? Right, take me to them. They're opening more doors. The pressure will reduce soon. How many shots were fired? Did it sound like an automatic weapon? I don't know. We didn't hear shots. The woman's voice is shaking. Okay, you, with me. He points at the Marine and the woman in the dark suit and leads them both through the choir stall to a narrow stone corridor with two large oak doors. There's a single usher standing just inside one door, and he can hear crying. Matthew steps into the first room. Right, there's been a shooting, but we are going to keep you all safe. This is... He tilts his head at the Marine. Tom. This is Tom. He's military and he's going to stay here with you and bolt the door. You'll be safe in here until the police arrive. I'm going to give you a password. The password is ice cream. Okay, Tom? The Marine nods. You don't open this door until you get that password. You hear me? Now shut this door and bolt it inside. He moves along to the second anteroom and repeats the instruction to the woman in black, who agrees to stay with the students. You're safest in here for now. The password is ice cream. Don't open until the police gives you that password, yes? He retreats to the main part of the cathedral just as the first uniformed police officers appear at the far end. Matthew dials Milligan. We've got scores of students in 2 locked anterooms inside. They're safe. Heavy doors. I've given them the password ice cream. I'll pass it on to the first teams who've just arrived. Can you circulate it as well? Good thinking. Will do. Any more shots? What kind of weapon, Matt? Automatic? We don't know, but it's not safe to move the students just yet, Mel. There's a terrible crush. But no more shots. No sign of the gunman. One victim. Girl. Looks in a bad way, but the shooter could still be around. Really good work, Matt. Thank you. You okay? No, we lead that armed team, but I can see 2 more doors being opened. Good. And your guys are here at last. I'll hand over, but I can't stay. I've got Sally and Emily in town. Okay, hand over and go to your family, Matt. Password ice cream. You let those students out fast as you can, yes? They're terrified, and some of the parents won't move away until they see their kids. Of course, you stay safe, Matt, and thank you. Matthew moves forward to speak to the first uniformed team to reach the door, tending to the injured girl. They are on their radios checking the ETA on the ambulance. He tells them about the students and the password and they nod, then frown. They all know the ambulance won't be allowed through until the all clear is given on the gunman. A next job, Matthew Hill. D.I. Mel Sanders knows me and can vouch for me. I've done what I can, but I can't stay. I have my own family in town. Do you need anything more from me? The officers shake their heads as Matthew glances around the cathedral again. Up there. That balcony is my best guess for the shooter position. No sign of anyone now, but who knows? And then he moves forward one last time to speak to the parents of the bleeding girl. The ambulance won't be long. The doctors continue the CPR. She'll be in the hospital soon. Matthew then retreats, using the door back out to the green by the laburnum. From there he jogs down a side alley and runs at a steady pace, using back streets to avoid the chaos on the high street. At first there's no phone signal. He hears more and more sirens as he nears the outskirts of the city, dialing Sally as he runs. At last, 3 bars. I'm safe. I'm on my way to you. The police are there now. There's this terrible sound, like an animal howling. Where are you, Sal? There's a pause, sort of gulping on the end of the line. Asda Car Park. I did what you said. Good. On my way. He hangs up and continues jogging, replaying all the scenes in his head. The girl on the ground in the pool of blood. The sound of the fences hitting the ground. Smash! Smash! The students, crying and terrified, in those 2 anterooms. Ice cream. Ice cream. He steadies his pace until he finally turns a corner to see the supermarket across the road. There are quite a lot of people milling about, white-faced, and he can hear a steady stream of questions. What's going on? Is it safe? What do we do? He sees the red of Sally's coat in the distance and continues towards her. As he reaches them, Emily's still crying. Sally, too. And then, to his shock, there is this blow to his left arm as Sally hits him really hard, tears pouring down her face. He just stands there as she keeps hitting him. Why did you do that? Leave us. Why did you do that? She punctuates each word with another blow. He just lets her hit him over and over until finally she stands still and looks at him, the anger on her face changing. Next, her shoulders are heaving and sobbing. I thought you were going to get yourself shot. Tears are still streaming down her face now, and he gently puts his arms around her, kissing her cheek. It's okay. I'm safe. I'm here now, Sally. Before pulling back to lift Emily, who is also crying, from the ground and hold her tight, too. Chapter 3. The Father Now. He watches his wife, watching their daughter. Through the window, beyond the hospital bed, he can see a nurse on the main ward talking to the uniformed officer who is guarding their cubicle. The staff say Gemma may be able to hear, so they're watching the news on the TV above the bed with subtitles instead of the sound. It's Thursday, 24 hours since the horror of the cathedral, yet the scrolling words confirm nothing's changed. Still, the police are saying there's no evidence to suggest terrorism. There's nothing, in fact, to confirm or suggest any motive or suspect at all. The appeal was repeated for photographs or video recorded on the many smartphones at the graduation ceremony. He has to steel himself for a moment, remembering the screaming and the blood on the stone floor. Some news channels have been running appalling footage on a loop, which brings it back so vividly time and time over, making his stomach churn and his wife cry. He tenses, worrying that the images may appear again right now. Gemma on the floor. That pool of blood. His baby girl's blood. He grabs the remote from the bedside table and turns off the TV. His wife spins her head, her eyes full of questions. He takes in the exhaustion and the fear on her face. Also an ache that he recognizes. That longing fear for better news. Any news, actually. There's nothing new, love, and in any case, D.I. Sanders is due soon. If there's anything new, she'll tell us. Shh. She's listening. I know she's listening. Rachel turns back to Gemma to smooth her hair and kiss her forehead with a gentleness that is almost unbearable to witness. We're here, darling girl. Daddy and me. We're right here. And we'll be here when you wake up. Just rest for now. You're not to worry about anything. You just sleep. He clenches his right fist and feels the nails dig into the palm. He finds that he likes this discomfort and so digs the nails a little deeper. He tries to keep his eyes from narrowing to the terrible little hill within the bedding. There's a frame beneath the blanket over her left leg, or rather where her left leg used to be. How will they tell her? Still he digs his nails deep into his flesh. When she comes round, if she comes round, how the bloody hell will they tell her? Last night his wife stayed at the hospital and he dashed home to pick up some things. Clothes, books, toiletries, Gemma's favorite perfume. He looked at the flatness of Gemma's double bed at home. No hill, no nasty frame beneath the duvet. And in the end, he swept everything from the top of Gemma's dressing table, breaking the mirror and a little China dog that she loves. In the early hours, he tried to superglue the dog back together, but it looks a mess. Like his daughter's body. He hasn't told his wife yet. About the dog. About Canada. Instead, he brought Gemma's gray rabbit to the hospital with some perfume, that his wife sprayed around the room. She seems to think their daughter will smell it from her coma and somehow be comforted. He thinks this unlikely, but has not said so, not out loud. He stares at the rabbit, a gray rabbit that has been a favorite since Gemma was last in the hospital as a tiny girl. Asthma attack. At the time, he thought it was the scariest thing he would ever endure as a parent. 4 nights in the high dependency unit. It was bad, but he had no idea back then just how bad could be. He watches his wife pull her hair up into the high ponytail. For all the exhaustion and the grayness of her skin and the black circles beneath her eyes, her back is straight. She's extraordinary. His rock. His everything. He remembers her pacing while Gemma had the surgery, up and down the corridor outside the operating theater. Up and down. Up and down. And the doctor coming on with updates. The 2 body blows. They were unable to save the leg. But the baby is okay. Baby? What baby? He was actually sick, retching over and over in the nearest gents. Kneeling over the toilet bowl, he was looking down at his own knees, wondering what they did with his daughter's leg. Do they burn it? An amputated limb? Some kind of incinerator? That was what made him vomit. To think of a part of his beautiful little girl, separate, gone, her flesh and blood, his flesh and blood. Now back on the ward, in the small and claustrophobic cubicle, he tries very hard not to think of any of these details, but there it is again. The little blanket hill in the bed. His beautiful girl, all chopped up. She's here. His wife signals with her head of the arrival of D.I. Melanie Sanders, who's talking to the uniformed officer outside the little box. We just need to get a drink, my darling. Rachel again kisses Gemma's forehead. We'll be back very soon. Next she raises her fingers to her lips so that he'll say nothing more until they're outside. Waiting for them beyond their daughter's room, D.I. Sanders looks pale, which he takes to mean bad news. Or rather, no news. How's she today? She asks. The same. Rachel is careful to close the door to the cubicle before taking a seat alongside the police inspector. They say the coma is the body's way of taking a break. It will give time for the swelling on the brain to go down. It's probably a good thing, actually. The coma. His wife tucks her hair behind her ear, and he wonders if Rachel realizes that she has told D.I. Sanders this already. More than once. We don't know how long it will be. The doctors explained last night that Gemma's blow to the head was when she hit the stone floor was every bit as serious as her leg injury from the gunshot. She has severe swelling on her brain. Her pupils are responsive, but there's no way of knowing what the long term holds. It's a waiting game. The medical staff were all very careful not to make any promises. It's important that you know we are doing everything that we can to piece together what happened. I have a good team. A strong team. D.I. Sanders is also repeating herself. So there's no news? No leads yet? He wishes that he sounded less critical, but it's hard to hide his frustration. A whole 24 hours. He'd expected progress and wants so badly for this to be explained. For this to have nothing to do with Canada. Nothing concrete yet. We're still working on Gemma's phone and laptop. Also going through all the footage that the people have shared. I'm waiting on the forensics report on the cathedral. Who knows what we'll find. Sometimes it can be the smallest thing that unlocks something. D.I. Sanders pauses and then takes in a long breath before turning to him. I asked last night if either of you noticed any change in Gemma. Anything troubling her. I was wondering if you'd had time to think about that. I mean, if you had any suspicions about the pregnancy. If there had been any discussion or hints or any kind of upset over it. What are you implying? Yesterday, D.I. Sanders' questions were brief and practical. Gemma was only just out of surgery. They were distressed and the interview was short. Today he senses a change in the officer's tone and there's something in her gaze he doesn't like. I just mean that it must be a shock, the pregnancy. If you knew nothing about it, I know all about it. It is a surprise. He's careful to speak slowly. But nothing compared to the shock of seeing my daughter gunned down at a graduation ceremony. With respect, I don't see the pregnancy as the key issue here. And how we feel about it is hardly the priority, Inspector. No, of course, I understand. But if it was something you knew nothing about, it may in some way be connected. At issue, it must have been stressful for Gemma too. I have to ask these questions. I'm very sorry. She doesn't look sorry. She looks borderline cynical now. He wonders what she's thinking, this detective inspector. Does she imagine some meltdown or confrontation with the father of his daughter's child? We didn't know she was pregnant, Inspector. We told you that last night. There was no discussion with Gemma. No conflict over it. We knew nothing. She holds his gaze a little longer and then turns to his wife. I appreciate this is a difficult line of inquiry for you both, but we have to consider who may be the father of the child, in case it's relevant to what's happened. I understand she'd recently split from her boyfriend Alexander? Yes. It came as a surprise to us, the split. They'd seemed quite happy. Rachel clears her throat with the fake little cough he knows so well. She does it when she says something embarrassing and is aware that people are staring at her. He wants to tell the inspector to leave his wife alone, and she's going through quite enough. Thank you very much. And they parted 2 or 3 months back, I understand. From speaking to some of Gemma's friends? Yes, about that. She didn't tell us immediately. We did have plans in place for a joint dinner to mark the graduation. The two families. We obviously canceled all that. Rachel clears her throat again. Have you spoken to Alexander? He's the one now staring at Di. Sanders narrows her eyes before she replies. Yes, we have. Only briefly so far. He's in shock too. Understandably. We've been careful so far over what we've shared with him, but my reading of our initial interview is that he doesn't know she's pregnant. Right. But won't this be made public? The pregnancy, I mean? It's not really anyone's business, is it? Ed is suddenly afraid of what will happen when the papers get hold of this. He imagines it splashed across the front page, all over the telly. We'd be very careful, but sometimes these things do get out. Well, I should warn you that no one will hear it from us. And I'll be very angry indeed if this gets out. He holds the inspector's gaze again and watches her nod. It's just we find it difficult, all the journalists. His wife has lowered her voice as she speaks. Are they still outside the hospital? They keep messaging us on social media. Yes, I'm sorry. The media interest is always difficult. I do sympathize. Have you thought again about the family liaison officer? No, we don't want anyone here. Not yet. Maybe when we're home. Rachel's tone is adamant. She can't bear the thought of anyone else hanging around the hospital. Bad enough needing a police guard. Okay, well, as I say, we'll be careful, but we do need to ask questions about your daughter's relationships. This is an attempted murder inquiry. I promise it'll be sensitive, but I want to be straight with you, too. I can't give an absolute guarantee that at some point our line of questioning won't lead to this information being shared by the people we have to question. His wife's crying now, and he reaches out to put his arms around her shoulders as she feels in her pocket for a tissue. And nothing more has come to mind since we spoke yesterday. D.I. Sanders is watching him closely again. She's a strange woman. Intense. It feels as if she has some kind of laser vision. Some instinct that is both promising in terms of the investigation and personally dangerous. He thinks of Canada. He thinks of the phone calls he made secretly late last night and wonders if the inspector will have his phone records examined. Damn. How the hell would he explain himself? No. Nothing. Chapter 4. The Daughter. Now. She sleeps most of the time and is grateful for the calm. But even in sleep, she hears the sea whispering and knows that it's waiting for her. Each time she wakes, she is somehow not in the real world at all, but instead beside the ocean. There's only the color blue, the soft blue of the sky and the deeper, brighter blue of the sea. She can feel the breeze on her face and the salt in the spray with the echo of each rolling wave. Yes, whispering. Shh. Always she is right at the water's edge, so that she can feel the lapping of the waves. Sometimes she's up to her ankles in the water, and sometimes up to her knees, but she always dressed and so never ventures out to swim. The first time all this happened, she thought she was truly awake. Now she knows this is not the case. It's happened over and over, as if on a loop. Just a different and special kind of dreaming from which the only escape is more sleep. She opens her eyes right now, and there it is. Same scene as always. Blue sky, blue sea, whispering. Today, she just stands in the water and lets it lap around her legs. Oddly, one leg is warm and the other is very cold. She looks down but can see only seaweed floating on the surface. Next, she waits for the object to float by. Every time in every dream, there are strange objects that float by. Every time in every dream, there's... I already said that, but I'll say it again anyway. Every time in every dream, there are strange objects that float by. like clues in some game she doesn't yet understand. Mostly they are things from her home and from her life, as if they are shipwrecked with her here by this beach. A bottle of perfume, the brush from her dressing table. Today there is the board from the ceremony in the cathedral. She watches it, bobbing up and down in the current, just out of reach. She remembers now that she was worried this would happen, that it would fall from her head. She straightens her back and remembers walking very upright with everyone clapping, and then she saw her mother's puzzled expression. Yes. She looked down at her dress. Is that when the mortar board fell off? She watched the board move closer, and stretches out her hand. She wonders if she's supposed to collect these objects. Is that it? Some kind of test, trying to find the pieces of some puzzle. If she collects all the objects in these dreams, maybe she can go home. Is that it? But her feet are buried too deep in the sand and she cannot move them. She tries harder, stretching out further, but it's no good. The mortar board floats past and she feels that she is going to cry. Next, the direction of the wave seems to change and the mortar board's floating even farther away. She tries to call out, but still she's mute, her voice gone. She moves her lips, but there's no sound beyond the whispering of the waves. Shh. She's listening. I know she's listening. What was that? She turns her head. She was so very sure she heard a voice. A voice she knows. She keeps very still and listens, but there's silence now. It is too late. The mortarboard drifts further and further away, and she's so very tired again. She closes her eyes and is somehow moving through the water and the clouds and the blue of the sky all at the same time. And now the strangest thing. She can smell her favorite perfume all around her. And as she drifts or flies or floats, she suddenly feels this wetness on her forehead, like the spray from the sea. But no, it isn't spray. She holds her body very, very still. We are here, darling girl. It feels like a kiss. This touch to her forehead. Yes, she's crying again. This feels just like a kiss. Chapter 5. The Private Investigator. Oh. Matthew checks his diary on his phone. Blank. Good. He moves from his desk to the door that connects to the adjoining flat and turns on the coffee machine. He sighs as he watches the light flash in red, knowing it will be a while before it signals the correct temperature. Once upon a time he was more patient. He would tell anyone who would listen that a good coffee was always worth waiting for. Now, as a parent and the owner of a growing business, his life's unrecognizable, a seesaw of different worries. He either has too much work or not enough. When business is hectic, he worries about balancing it with family life. When work's low, he worries about paying the bills. The upshot is he worries more and sleeps less. And he's not so good at waiting. He glances around the small kitchen and thinks back to the time he lived in the flat right alongside his office. The different version of Matthew before he met Sally. Before the gift and the puzzle that is their lovely Aunt Emily. He slumps onto the stool at the breakfast bar, willing the light on the machine to hurry up. At last there's little buzz on the color blinks from red to green. He presses the button for a double espresso as his phone rings. The display confirming D.I. Melody Sanders. Again. Hello, Mel. How's it going? He's surprised to hear from her so soon. It's Friday, 2 days since the horror of the cathedral, and she's already phoned several times, on each occasion sounding more and more stretched. It's unlike her. Listen, I know I shouldn't ask, but do you have time to meet in our cafe, Matt? Her tone's uncertain and her voice is quieter than usual. You can't read it. Yeah, sure. Not much on here today, actually. An hour? Perfect. Thank you. You okay, Mel? He's surprised she even has time to meet him. There's a pause. No, not really. The politics on this one are off the scale, Matt. We've got the media crawling all over us. I'm wondering whether I'm up to this. Don't be ridiculous. Of course you're up to this. Everyone wants a decision on whether the final graduation ceremony should go ahead next week. I mean, we've ruled out terrorism, but it's an odd case. So public. I'm not sure I can make the call yet. We'll have the CSI team on site in a while. She's talking too fast. Don't they realize I have to put the inquiry above everything else? Above the politics? Above the economic worries? Right. Take a deep breath, Mel. Save it for the cafe. One step at a time. We'll talk it all through. He pauses. Order carrot cake. A huge slice. You need sugar. At last she laughs. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate this. No problem. See you in an hour. He hangs up and sips at the coffee before quickly dialing home. Sal texted earlier to say their daughter was playing up again. Hi there, honey. How's Emily? Complete nightmare, Sal's whispering. She still won't go to the nursery. I've tried absolutely everything. Tummy ache routine again? Matthew's frowning. They let Emily stay off an extra day after all the drama, but he'd expected it to blow over by now. Day 3. No. Hang on, Matt. I need to move. There's the click of a door at Sally's end. Sorry, I don't want her listening in. She says she's worried the bad man will come to the nursery with his gun. Sally pauses again. She says she feels safer at home. Jeez. Matthew stands and checks his watch. He should go home, but it's now torn. He needs to leave straight away for the cafe, if he's not to hold Mel up. Or rather let her down. Right. Well, we need to talk this through some more this evening. Maybe I underestimated. He rakes his fingers through his hair, taking in a long, slow breath. I'd hope she'd just forget it at her age. Maybe we should take advice. Get someone professional to talk to her. Like a psychiatrist? Oh, goodness. You really think so? You don't think we just need to give it some more time? I honestly don't know. Look, do you want me to come home now? Are you busy? Sort of, but no then. It won't change today. I've written off nursery for today. Okay, so let's try reassuring her together again when I get home later and see how the weekend goes. But let's take some advice too. What about the school? Maybe we could talk to her teacher? Hey! I thought I muted the TV! What are you doing with playing the music? Hey! No. I'm pretty sure I muted this TV. I muted this TV and it's going to try to get me in a lot of trouble. Stop it. I hate when I even muted the TV before I started recording this. And of course it still plays it like as if it still does that. I hate when that happens. Annoying. What about the school? Maybe we can talk to her teacher? And Emily's nursery is attached to the primary school she'll be attending soon. It's a brilliant place. Long waiting list. This is my fault, isn't it? Sal sounds close to tears now. For saying those things in front of her. For mentioning the gun. For saying I thought you were going to get shot. Sal, you have to stop that, love. This is no one's fault but this bastard who shot a poor girl in the cathedral. Emily will get past this with our help. We'll make her feel safe again, Sal. Kids are resilient. We just need to give her a bit of time. He waits, sipping again at the coffee. The truth? He's feeling now that this is his fault for charging off in the opposite direction, for heading to the cathedral in the danger instead of protecting his family. Sally lets out a long sigh. You're right, Matt. Okay, I'll try to distract her today and play it down. We'll talk to her again later, yes? Course. Together. Look, I just got a meeting and then I'll be home early. Promise. Love you. You too. In the car, he finds the folks' jolly banter of a music quiz irritating. He keeps thinking of Emily bursting into tears when he caught up with them in the car park after the cathedral. He flips from radio station to radio station. Some are running updates on a hurricane that has hit an island he's never heard of, Meltona. Everyone's stranded. He searches for a local news bulletin, and at last there's an update on the shooting. It repeats that police are still trawling through the huge array of photos and video footage of the graduation ceremony. There's a sound clip in which you can hear someone in the background shouting, "She's been shot! Oh no, she's been shot!" Then screaming. He snaps off the radio, his heart rate increasing again. He's picturing once more the small oak door by the laburnum tree, the faces of all the terrified students in that anteroom, unsure whether to make a run for it. Ice cream. Ice cream. You wait for the password. By the time he reaches the cafe, he feels inexplicably tired, even though it's barely 11:30 a.m. Mel's already seated in their favorite alcove. "Hi, Matt. I ordered coffee and carrot cake for both of us." "Good. You look as if you need both." He takes in the dark circles beneath her eyes. "So the pressure's really on, then?" Understatement. She checks her watch. The suits upstairs and the press officer want updates every 5 bloody minutes. "And you so love politics." He's trying to make her smile, but it doesn't work, so he changes gears. "Okay. So do you have a big enough team?" "Well, there we do have a surprise. They're throwing resources at it like you wouldn't believe. Most unusual. I'm told I'm to do whatever needs to be done, mostly because of the national media crawling all over us. Universities up and down the country are watching like hawks. Everyone wants to know what to do. If this is a one-off or some weird new MO. And what are counterterrorism saying? All clear. No terror link and no intel, so they're backing right off. First 24 hours there was a talk of canceling every graduation across the country until there was a proper steer. PM in the loop. Now it's all suddenly changed. I was briefed first thing. They found absolutely nothing. There's been some big meeting and the new focus is to reassure the public this is not terrorism. My job is to make everyone feel safe." Matthew at last understands Mel's demeanor. "So all back on your shoulders?" She just stares at him by way of response as the waitress arrives. They both lean back as the server plates down their coffees, apologizing as froth spills into one of the saucers. Don't worry." Matthew grabs a paper napkin from a stainless steel carousel in the center of the table to mop up the spill. The waitress smiles, saying the cake will be just a couple of minutes. He watches the woman return to the counter. "So my immediately problem, quite apart from finding the bastard, is calling what to do about this final graduation." Mel stirs the cocoa into the coffee. "The university wants to know what to announce. They've canceled the two ceremonies which were supposed to be this week, but we expect to release the cathedral from forensics early next week, so they want to know if they should go ahead with next Friday's ceremony, which is the last of the year. My call, apparently." "You mean the chancellor doesn't want it on her shoulders?" "Something like that. Quite apart from public confidence, there's a lot of money at stake. Hotel bookings and so on. Mainstead tourism bosses are panicking. Everyone's looking to us to buoy confidence and wrap this up." "Excuse me. You know how rare shootings are outside of drug crime, let alone at a major event." "Okay, so where are you on the forensics?" "Your guess was right. The gun was fired up in that balcony. A handgun with a silencer is the best assumption from all the video footage we've reviewed. Just one bullet into the girl's leg. We've recovered the bullet, but it's not giving a lot away." "And the sweep of the balcony?" "Unhelpful. Lots of people went up there to take pictures before the ceremony. A million footprints and fingerprints and no matches to anyone in our systems yet." "What about the exit path for the shooter? Anything on the footage?" "No. There's an easy exit from the balcony. A staircase to the lower corridor with a small side door straight outside. It's tucked away, a bit like the door you used to get in on the other side. Usually locked, sometimes left open on the quiet for staff, which was the case during the ceremony. No CCTV nearby. Okay, not good. He lets out a long, slow breath. So, motive. What are you thinking? Is this personal? To Gemma or the university or the cathedral? Or just some lone lunatic? I honestly have no idea. Mel frowns as if weighing something up. She goes to say something but then changes her mind, sipping at her tea at her drink. Come on, Mel. You called me, so spit it out. You know you can trust me. And like it or not, I'm sort of involved. The victim's pregnant, Matt. Parents didn't know. I think her friends may be hiding something. She'd recently broken up with her boyfriend. He's on my list, obviously. Been questioned, but nothing on him so far. Word is he fled early on, and we're still checking that against the footage. Right. Jeez. So do we know for sure who the father is? She shakes her head as the waitress places down their cakes, and they again wait for her to retreat out of earshot. Not yet, but we both know the pregnancy's going to come out, Matt. Next round of questioning. It's bound to leak. Her parents are dreading it. Yeah, tough on them. But we don't mind that. But we can't help that. He watches her scoop some of the topping from the carrot cake onto her fork and suck it, the pleasure of the sweetness lighting up her eyes for just a moment. Anything from her phone and laptop yet? And what about a diary, a blog? She studied English, didn't she? A writer. Could be a diary? Apparently not. We checked her flat and her mother said she didn't keep one. Her phone's locked, so we don't have full access yet. First scan of laptop hasn't found anything yet. We put in the request for social media access, but you know how slow that is. My team's going through the phone company records, checking all the numbers. Popular girl. It's a long list. And this is all assuming she was a deliberate target. What about the university or the cathedral? Anyone sacked recently? Anyone with a grudge? Any known weirdos hang out at the cathedral? Local gun clubs? Any religious protests? Are you sure you won't just come back on my bloody team, Matt? It would make my life so much easier. He half laughs. Then he feels his expression change and watches Mel's change, too. A lifetime ago, they trained together. Worked together. Hold on a second. Okay, sorry about that. When he left the police force over a difficult case, the child's death, Mel said he was making a big mistake and she was probably right. But he won't go back. Too late to turn back now. So weird that you were in the city, Matt. There's a long pause. What is it? Sal's not very happy with me for diving in. Right. Sorry. I didn't think. She looks away across the cafe, then back at him. Felt selfishly, I was just bloody glad you got there ahead of my team. He raises an eyebrow. Seriously, you were amazing, Matt. I deserted my family, Mel. Not sure Sally would call that amazing. Matthew finishes his cake and pushes the plate away. Also, Emily heard too much. Oh no, I'm sorry, I had no idea. He watches Mel take this in properly and her eyes soften. He and Mel liaised unofficially on several cases. The last time, a stalker inquiry, Mel was heavily pregnant. He was booked privately to help the victim. Mel was the official investigating officer. She took maternity leave afterwards, but her son George is still tiny, only just walking. Matthew wonders how on earth Mel manages. Her husband, Tom, is a wildlife campaigner, working with a charity. A decent bloke. Matthew likes him. Does Tom worry about the job? Do you talk stuff through with him? The truth? She wrinkles her nose. I play everything down, especially any risks. I think he'd make me quit if he knew. She dusts her fingers on the napkin. Right, so my immediate worry is Gemma's messages. Messages? Matthew notes the great change. The gear change. Also how very pale Mel looks. Not herself at all. Gemma's phone records show several Facebook notifications on the morning of the shooting. One of her friends told me she'd had some really odd direct messages and was stressed about them. What kind of messages? Matthew wishes he had the courage to ask if she's really okay. Is she struggling too? Work and home? Dare he ask? Should he ask? That's the problem. We don't know yet. Like I say, we're not into her phone yet. We've got the paperwork into Facebook, but Lord knows how long that will take. Gemma's friend doesn't know any details. Also, again she pauses to finish the last of her coffee. There's something a bit odd about the dad. Something like what? Oh, you know me, gut feeling. I don't know exactly. And now her phone interrupts them. Sorry, Matt, gotta take this. She holds up her hand to register the impasse as she answers, her expression darkening. Right. She stands up. So is anyone hurt? She glances to the ceiling as she listens some more to her caller. Understood. I'll be right there. Try to calm things down. Reassure the staff. And for goodness' sake, keep him away from the family. Mel ends the call, plunging the phone into her jacket pocket. Sorry, Matt. Crisis at the hospital. I've got to go. Chapter 6. The Mother. I'm putting moisturizer on Gemma's face when it all kicks off. As I rub my hands together, waiting for the slight stickiness to be absorbed, there's suddenly some kind of commotion outside the cubicle and across the ward. At first there's just distant remonstrating. I'm utterly stilled, rather than panicked, holding my breath. We have a guard. I can't make out the words and don't know if this is benign, some other family rumpus, some stuff or visitor dispute, or to do with us. I look at Ed and he holds my stare. The police guard beyond our cubicle window stands. There's a beat of silence, but next comes full-on shouting, maybe at the entrance to the unit or just outside in the corridor. I demand a seer! You can't stop me! The bitch has been lying to me, cheating on me! Now comes true terror. I stand and Ed stands too. We exchange a look of pure and mere dread, my stomach cramping and my mind racing. The voice sounds young, male, but the angle of the window in our cubicle means we can't see who it is. The police guard glances at us through the glass, signaling with his hand for us to stay put, before striding out of sight. I feel a new and terrible wave, not just of fear, but complete disorientation. What to do? Ed moves to close the door to our little cubicle, holding the handle in place, pushing it upwards to try to stop anyone getting in. I can hear one of the nurses arguing with the intruder, and then the older male voice, presumably our police guard. You need to put that down right now. You can't go through. We told you that. Let's keep this calm. Let's move this downstairs and talk this through calmly. He's immediately interrupted by a loud thud and a woman screaming. I can feel my heart racing wildly and let out this low groan. Next we hear more shouting, unintelligible, and the sound of apparent scuffling followed by a loud clanging as if something metal's been knocked over. A chair? No. The noise suggests something much bigger. Maybe some kind of trolley it, as there is a cacophony of different metal notes and the sound of broken glass. I imagine various instruments strewn across the floor. One note continues, a horrible low whirring as if a metal ball is circling on the floor, round and round, round and round. I move to the side of Gemma's bed. Ed has stretched his right hand across to the bedside table, his left hand still tied around the door handle. He grabs my iPad and holds it right up high as the only available weapon. I'm now standing between the window and Gemma's bed, stretching out my arms to widen my shield and trying not to think of the cathedral and how useless an iPad will be if the man is armed. Don't let it be a gun. Don't let it be a gun again. There's another little impasse. This strange and chilling moment of quiet. Then a male voice calling out in pain. I'm holding my breath when a nurse suddenly appears on the side of our cubicle window. She has her hand up to signal for us to keep still. She glances across the room, then back to us to mouth, "It's okay." Next, we hear the voice of our police guard giving instructions, apparently to a hospital security guard. He says there's police backup on the way and the young man is to be held until backup arrives. We wait. 1 minute, 2 minutes. At last, there's a knock on our door. "It's your police guard here. You can open up now. It's all clear." Ed slowly opens the door to find the guard still on his radio. "Thank you. Yes, he's cuffed. The situation's contained." He's leaning his chin down as he speaks into the radio while also checking on his watch. "I have assistance from hospital security, but I need that backup fast. And we need to update D.I. Sanders. Will you do that for me?" A pause. "Good. And keep me posted." He then takes his finger off the radio and turns to us. "I'm so sorry. I want to let you know that you're absolutely safe. The young man making the scene claims he's your daughter's boyfriend, Alexander." He lowers his voice. "He's making various accusations, demanding to see Gemma. They've got him handcuffed in a side office. He'll be taken to the police station for questioning. But I just wanted you to know what's happening. I'll be staying here with you. Once backup arrives to take him to the station." I can't believe it. Alex? All that rage. Was he armed? My voice is so high that I hardly recognize it. Alex, the boy who came on holiday with us. The boy who always seemed so kind around Gemma. Devoted. No, not armed. Well, not exactly. He grabbed a water jug, threatened one of the nurses who wouldn't let him go through. No formal weapon, just very overwrought. D.I. Sanders will be here soon, I'm sure. She'll talk to you once we know what he's saying. Was anyone hurt? Was anyone hurt? Ed's voice is steadier than mine. No, he knocked over a trolley at the nurse's station. There's broken glass which needs cleaning up, but no one hurt. Are you both okay? The nurses are talking to all the patients in the other cubicles. I'm very sorry you've been put through this. Ed reaches out to touch my arm and lets out a long sigh. Thank you, officer. We're fine. Just a bit shaken. So what's he saying? Why did he come here? He's her ex, you know. Not her boyfriend now. He sent us a card asking to see Gemma, but we didn't reply. I mean, she broke it off with him. We were respecting her decision. Ed turns to me and then back to the guard. So do you think it was him? At the cathedral, I mean? Best we don't jump to any conclusions. I suggest you wait to speak to D.I. Sanders after he's been interviewed properly. Do you still have the card? She'll want to see that. I nod. There have been so many cards from people, but I've kept them all. I moved to my hold all in the corner to look for it, struggling to take this in. The venom in Alex's voice. The bitch has been lying to me. Unrecognizable. And what did he mean? Cheating on me. I can feel my lips trembling and put my hand up to my mouth, suddenly remembering Gemma, horrified that she may have heard all this. Chapter 7. The Daughter Before. Easy Notes, Romanticism Module, 3rd year. Okay, so these are obviously not my notes on the Romanticism schedule, on the Romanticism module. The truth? It's Thursday night. Late. I'm sitting at my laptop and it tells you everything that my hands are actually shaking, and I'm hiding this in an essay prep folder in my coursework files because I need to be as sure as I can that Alex won't somehow read this. Find this. Paranoid? Going off the rails? Maybe a little bit of both. I don't know. All I know is that I am doing this. Writing this, I mean. Because last night we had the worst argument ever, and I have no one to talk about it. He was off the scale angry, Alex. My supposedly perfect boyfriend. Not physical. He didn't hit me or anything, but he did for the first time actually scare me. I honestly had no idea his temper could be that bad. I've actually never seen anyone rage like that, to be honest. My parents don't really fight, unless I'm lucky that way. They're more sulkers. They don't even raise their voices. They just hole up in different parts of the house when they're upset, until it blows over. So I'm not used to this. I don't know how to handle it. Just what to even think. And I have no idea what to do. I haven't written anything like this. Like a diary, I mean, since I was a kid. I blog sometimes. I rage and rant about politics all over social media. Words are how I process things. This feels a bit childish, actually, the diary vibe. But I can't post this stuff anywhere, and I just don't know how else to handle it. I keep picking up my phone and thinking I should call someone. Mom? No. Maddie. But I can't do it. I don't know what I'd say. And if I've made too much of everything and Alex and I are fine again, I won't I won't want anyone to know what ever happened. It's just my mind is all over the place. Alex is always saying I overreact, overthink things. Maybe I do. Maybe there's the real problem here. Maybe that's the real problem here. Mom's been telling me for years to go away until you calm down whenever I get wound up. So maybe I'm actually at the one at fault. Maybe I do just overreact. But this thing between me and Alex felt really serious, and I feel we've sort of crossed a line. And I can't figure out who is on the right side of the line, who is the most in the wrong, him or me. So, deep breath. The story. A said deep breath, so I'm taking a deep breath. Screw it. It all started because I decided I couldn't go on without at least testing my theory, paranoia, about Alex hacking my Facebook profile. Even writing that sounds terrible, doesn't it? He says I'm paranoid and sometimes I worry he's right. He says I see things that aren't there. Anyway, whatever. I couldn't help getting worried because some really, really odd things have been happening lately with my social media accounts. So a couple of times I've sent Maddie photos after a night out by DM, just for us. We're not an Insta or anything. We're more private like that. Just stupid and completely innocent stuff. Us doing vodka shots, us pouting and making faces for selfies. Usual nonsense. Alex has always, right from the start, been a bit weird about my girl nights. I used to think it was sweet that he worried about me getting home safely. He made me text him when I got back to the flat, so he would know I was safe. I liked it. I probably even encouraged it because it made me feel looked after. Made me feel looked after. It was a bit like when Mom used to wait up at home. A part of me was irritated, and another part was pleased she cared that much. And then with Alex, the checking in escalated. It started to be every time I did anything, even completely safe stuff. Not late at night. I tried to say there was no need to text if I wasn't waiting, or walking on my own in the dark or whatever, but he still pushed it. At first I realized that it was partly my fault because I said that liked it to begin with. This last term, though, it's gotten much, much worse, to the point where I felt he was being borderline controlling. I also kept noticing him looking over my shoulder when I was on my phone or on my computer, so I put a password lock on my laptop. Then after I did that, I realized it wasn't normal to feel the need to do that, and so I told him. He felt really bad. He said it was only because he loved me so much. I let it go, but I did say it was important we trusted each other, and that we should have our own lives as well as our couple life. Our couple life. He seemed a lot calmer for a bit, and I thought things were okay. Sorted. I started arranging a few more girls' nights with Maddie to sort of test that he was genuinely pulling back and giving me some more space. And that's when the weird stuff with Facebook started happening. He said something to me that made me think of one of the DMs I sent Maddie last week. Something about the color of the vodka glasses and me wearing his favorite dress. I was really spooked and annoyed. I asked him how he knew that stuff when he wasn't there, and he just said he knew the bar, that's all. And we were always drinking the vodka, and that it was a lucky guess I'd wear that dress. I pretended to let it go. I suppose it was just possible that he was telling the truth. But then I deliberately sent a photo to Maddie of us with a bunch of people from our course, including some fit guys. And sure enough, Alex was in a foul mood the next time I saw him, grilling me about who I'd been out with and who else was there from the course, name dropping some of the people in the picture. He had to have seen the photo, which means he must have gotten into my Facebook account and read my DMs. Ugh. Hacked the page? Or worked out the password? To be honest, it wasn't that safe. So yesterday I changed all my passwords. Most of them were the same one. I'm hopeless at this stuff. And I told him I'd done this as I was worried someone had hacked my account and was looking at my direct messages. Well, he went mental. I thought he'd be embarrassed and even a bit ashamed, as it's obvious it was him, but I never dreamt he would lose it like that. I tried to calm him down. A part of me felt guilty that I'd provoked him, like he's always saying. I mean, I did send the group shot deliberately, but it turned into this massive fight about trust and him loving me so much more than I love him. Him wanting to keep me safe. The hairs were literally standing up on the back of my neck because it all felt so wrong. So weird. Then he started crying, properly sobbing, and I didn't know what to feel. I tried to leave, but he said we needed to talk it through some more and work it out. He was still crying and he sort of grabbed my arm. Not to hurt me, I know that, but just to stop me leaving. Anyway, I had to wrench it away. Oh my word. The look in his eyes. It was scary. So that's why I'm babbling here. Because he's supposed to be coming with me next weekend to visit Mom and Dad again. We've got an expensive fancy afternoon tea booked as an early celebration for my birthday, and I don't know what to do. He's been bombarding me with texts today, apologizing, sending me pictures of us all loved up, etc. He keeps saying that all couples argue, which I suppose is true, though I told him before that my parents aren't like that, and that getting past this will make us stronger. I keep thinking about films and soaps and rerunning TV dramas in my head. Is it normal to fight as badly as this? Can you get past this stuff this bad? Do I expect too much? Is he right that I overthink everything? And the thing is, I'm always boring everyone about how great he is. The perfect boyfriend. And yet suddenly I don't know what I think of him at all. And what does that say about me? About my judgment? So do I cancel the visit home? Do I confide in Mom after all? The problem is she really hates any kind of argument. I don't exactly know why. Gran said some difficult stuff happened when she was a kid, but I don't know the details. So if I tell her about this, she'll probably worry herself sick. She was the one in the early days telling me I was too young to be thinking about a serious relationship. I was the one trying to convince her how fab and special Alex is and how serious we are. Ugh! It's all unraveling so quickly that I haven't even told Maddie yet. I don't even know what to think. I just don't know. Chapter 8. The Father. Now. Ed closes the front door behind him and hangs his waterproof jacket on one of the hooks on the wall. He throws his keys into the little wooden bowl on the narrow side table and listens to the familiar jangle as they settle. Next, he stands perfectly still in the hallway, taking in the silence. Not so long ago, he would have rejoiced to come home to this. An empty house. The rare treat of the place to himself. He would have made a large pot of coffee and taken it into the conservatory with Radio 4 on his phone, piped through the speaker on the shelf. He would have luxuriated in doing precisely what he wanted with no jobs allocated by Rachel and no pleas from Gemma to help with her new CV, which in recent weeks she has been changing almost daily. He's walked through this front door a million times and thrown his keys into that same carved wooden box a million times, and yet it is as if he doesn't recognize the place, the bowl, the hall. It's still Friday, but late. His second trip home to pick up things they need. He stares at his coat, dripping water onto the parquet floor. He hadn't even noticed it was raining. He checks his hands, wet, feet in his hair. Feels his hair, wet too. He wonders how long this days-life existence will continue, when he might start to feel human again. The problem, since the cathedral is working out how he's supposed to fit into the world around him, it's not so bad at the hospital. There his purpose is clear. There, Ed Hartley is the parent of a very poor child. In Gemma's small and oh-so clinical cubicle, it's all bleeping machines and nurses with tests and updates, and his job is to listen, to watch the numbers on the machines, to press the doctors for information, above all to stay strong. His job is also to care for his wife, who's always been so much tougher on the outside than the inside. He runs errands for coffee and sandwiches and watches Rachel with all her hands-on care for their daughter, so tender and so patient that it's almost unbearable to him. But back here in the house, collecting things for Rachel and checking the post, Ed has absolutely no idea how to be. The house is just the same, but their life is completely dismantled. It's as if there are two worlds and he has no idea how to transport himself between one and the other. He hears himself taking a long, slow breath and finds that he cannot bear the silence. You need to do something. The voice in his head sounds afraid. You need to get a grip, and you need to get a phone, and you need to phone Canada again. He glances at the landline and wonders if it's safer to use his mobile this time. Will the police really check their phone records? He has no idea. All he wants is confirmation that everything in Canada is okay. He's already tried emailing her parents, but the email bounced. The address no longer valid. His first frantic call to the unit late that first night was a complete waste of time. They couldn't help him and told him to phone back in the morning. He couldn't. He was back at the hospital. He watches more drips fall from his coat, pooling in a tiny puddle on the floor. If Rachel were here, she would appear with a cloth, worried about a watermark on the wood. He thinks of her earlier, before the scene with Alex, brushing Gemma's hair, turning their daughter's head from side to side ever so carefully. He realizes that he should have said something to the police about Canada from the off, but leaving it this long has somehow made it more and more impossible to find the right explanation. At last, Ed takes his mobile from his trouser pocket and moves into the kitchen. A plate with toast crumbs is still on the side from his last dash home for toiletries and clothes. Rachel wants to stay at the hospital full time, using the little room provided for the family of seriously ill patients for rest. But the bed's a single. They try taking turns, but neither of them sleeps properly, so Rachel says he should be the one to collect more things, check the post, and grab some rest at home too. He didn't want to leave after what happened with Alex, but now it's a window to try Canada again. He scrolls through the contacts in his phone, and then remembers he didn't store the number. He Googles the unit and dials, working out the time difference in his head. 5 hours behind. The unit should be fully staffed. A female voice answers. The Meridale Center. How can I help you? Can I help you? Hello. I'm reading, please, to inquire about one of your patients, Laura Berkeley. I just want to know how she's doing. Please, nothing urgent, a general call. You are? He pauses, his pulse quickening as he tries to decide whether to lie. It's just we can only share information with relatives. Are you a relative? Sort of. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Can I take your name? Look, I simply want to know if Laura Barkley is there, and if she's okay. Surely you can at least tell me that. There's a longer pause and some noise at the end of the line as if the woman is checking with a colleague or maybe a computer screen. Excuse me, but are you a reporter? Her tones curl suddenly, and Ed ends the call, aware of his pulse in his ear as he keeps the mobile pressed against it. Why did she say that? Why did she think the media might be interested in Laura? He's shaken, and to steady himself, he moves to sit on the high stool at the breakfast bar. Are you a reporter? Ed has no idea what on earth to do next. He thinks of his beautiful daughter in that hospital bed with the nasty frame shielding the stump which was once her leg. He thinks of the cathedral, the moment Gemma fell. And then he thinks of that other cathedral, all those years ago. The clock, the first sight of her. Is it possible it's simply a coincidence? Two cathedrals? Is he deluding himself as he clings on tight, tight to the hope that this could be just a terrible and horrible coincidence? Chapter 9. The Mother. That's probably enough for today, darling. It's late. I put the bookmark in place and closed the novel, smoothing its cover with my palm. Ed found the book in Gemma's room on his first trip home, and I'd been reading to her to try to restore a sense of calm after the horrible scene earlier. I still feel shaken and find myself gripping the novel too tightly. I stare at my white knuckles and loosen my grasp, turning the book over to examine the strange cover. It's an odd book about a group of girls who find themselves alone on an island with the option to send only one three-word text message each day to the outside world. No incoming messages are allowed, and no other connection to the internet. The cover of the novel has an oasis of palm trees and a sea, ominously colored red. It's well written, and certainly unusual, but I'm a little surprised it's to Gemma's taste. To be frank, and am worried it's turning too dark. Borderline horror, which is clearly not the right choice just now for her or me. I consider telling Gemma this, but don't want to sound preachy. I may just get Ed to look for a different book. I'll message him in the morning before he returns. Oh wait, you know what? I forgot to check to make sure nothing was on the chat page, but so far nothing. Alright. Now I can keep on reading. I forgot to check the chat just to see if anybody said anything. I think I'll just sit and doze for a bit, I tell her. The nurses are changing shift. You just rest. I'm right here if you need me. Each time I talk to her like this, I still get the same flutter of disappointment when she doesn't move. I try to be patient and pragmatic, but the truth is I simply cannot help searching her face, her hands, her whole body actually, hoping that she will find some small way to signal that she can hear me. A flutter of her eyelids or a tiny movement of her fingers, perhaps. But I scan, and there's absolutely nothing. Always this complete stillness. At first in here, I held her hand almost constantly and told her that she could squeeze it ever so gently if she could hear me. I truly expected her to do this. It was a terrible shock to feel nothing, just flesh on flesh. It was then I realized that in my head, I had this absolute conviction that I was going to get my moment, any minute, any hour. I had conjured this ridiculous movie version of our situation. Only now I'm slowly starting to dread that here in the real world there's to be no Hollywood moment. I was simply creating too much pressure for both of us. Disappointment for me, and worse, possibly continual frustration for her. And so I stopped asking her to squeeze my hand. Now I just tell her that she's not to worry about anything. I say that I know in my heart that she can hear me, but it doesn't matter if she can't confirm this to me just yet. I don't mind. She's not to feel any pressure. Still, I find it hard to take my eyes off her in case I miss the first movement, the first sign. There's a change suddenly through the glass on the main ward, a dimming of the lights, signaling the night shift proper. The new nurses on duty have already been in to check on Emma, logging all her readings on the little clipboard at the end of her bed. They know my routine. I tell Ed that at night. I'll sleep in the little room they provided for us on the floor below, but this isn't true. I only nap in there in the day when he's here to watch her in my place. When I send him home to rest, I can't bear to leave our little cubicle in case something changes, so I just sleep in this chair. The nurses don't seem to mind. I find I do a lot of thinking in this late evening phase, when the lights first dim. I feel too awake to try to settle or doze, and instead tend to just stare at different objects, one after another, with my mind wandering through the silence, through the years. In these shadows and in this stillness, I think a lot about the last time we were in hospital with Gemma, when she was sick with asthma as a toddler. It was terribly frightening, but in a very different way. I slept in a chair alongside her that time too, but it was not the same at all on the children's wards. All the parents stayed over. Some on camp beds set up in the playroom, and others covered in blankets and tall back chairs. There was a kitchen where we could make hot drinks, and I had long conversations with the other mothers in the early hours, each of us fighting different battles with different illnesses, but all in the same horrible boat together, wearing the same dark circles under our eyes. A sad but comforting camaraderie in that kitchen. Here there's no camaraderie, only the sense of shock that what's happened has separated my whole family from the rest of the world. There are three of these single cubicles with windows looking out on the onto the wider ward, which has three additional open plan beds. Patients seem to come and go, and most have visitors only part of the day and evening. The majority seem to come in after road accidents and the like, spending a few hours here after surgery before transfer to the general wards. Everyone knows that Gemma was shot. I see it in their eyes as they glance towards our cubicle. The shock. The pity. I watch them take in our police guard, and then keep themselves to themselves. Like I say, no camaraderie here, and probably best that way. Safest. I find that I'm staring now at the controller for the bed, a gray plastic brick with little arrows to move the mattress up and down. My eyes blur, so I blink and move my gaze up to the window where I can just see our police guard has taken a seat right alongside the door to our cubicle. Good. I like it when he sits where I can see him, especially after the commotion earlier. I scratch my nose. Hospitals have such a distinct smell, don't they? When Gemma was born, I had to spend 5 days on the ward after an emergency cesarean. Initially, I couldn't bear it. That distinct mixture of antiseptics and polish and hospital food. Now, I am already used to it again. My new norm. I can't imagine being at home. The scent of home. I stare at Gemma and wonder if she can smell as well as hear. For a moment, I consider asking her if she smelled the perfume I sprayed, but changed my mind. I need to let her rest. You know the thing that really upsets me now? Ed's not at all sure that Gemma can hear us. He's said as much several times. I don't challenge him because I don't want an argument, but I can't bear to think that he might be right. To imagine her in another place entirely out of reach, all quiet and lost. No. I reach out to smooth the corner of the blanket on her bed. Gemma can hear me. I am watching her breathe. In, out, in, out. When the police guard stands. I can make out that he's talking to someone, and I'm anxious, but there's a knock on the door, and I realize he would not allow this unless it was safe. I wonder if Ed's returned for some reason, but when I move to open the door, it's D.I. Sanders. I feel my chin pull back towards my neck with the surprise of this. We were expecting to speak to her together tomorrow. I'm frowning. Good news? Bad news? Please don't be alarmed, Mrs. Hartley. I'm sorry to call in so late, but I was just passing the hospital on my way home and thought I'd check in on you. After the upset earlier. How are you doing? Oh, right. I see. Still very shaken, but okay. I'm sorry, but I thought we were going to go over it all properly tomorrow. Has something happened? No, nothing's happened. But we've interviewed Alex now, and I wanted to bring you up to date. I feel for my phone. Should I ring my husband? Ed's desperate to know what's going on. We both are. No, please don't disturb him. I'll come back again tomorrow and talk to you both together then. Right. Sorry. Can we talk? Can we talk outside, please? I move through the door to the pair of chairs placed just outside our cubicle. I take one. The inspector sits alongside. I lower my voice and hope that with everyone sleeping, we won't be overheard. The nurses are in their corner office. So, was it him? The shooting? Was it Alex? Even as I ask the question, it sounds surreal. I picture Alex at our breakfast table, laughing on one of his weekend visits. I just can't see it. Alex with a gun? Alex hurting Gemma? D.I. Sanders lets out a breath before speaking. We're still making inquiries. Alex is in custody. We've been unable to track his exact movements across all the photos and footage. It's early days. I'm not going to lie to you. At this stage, he is a suspect, but we have no evidence yet. Don't you test his clothing or something? For residue? I've seen that on the television. We're doing everything we can. Everything's in hand. But she looks down at her lap and back up to me. With everyone fleeing the scene, it's been more difficult for forensics. People have washed their clothing, for instance. Right. All sorts of thoughts are swirling around in my head. So the aggro earlier. What's he saying about that? I really thought something terrible was going to happen again. We've charged him with breach of the peace and criminal damage. As I say, he'll stay in custody for now while we make more inquiries. You're safe here. He's calmed down and he's claiming to be very sorry for the scene here. You're not expecting me to feel sorry for him? No, of course not. But we have no hard evidence at this stage to suggest he was in any way responsible for the shooting. But he's a suspect. Yes, he is. Once again, I picture him in our house, in our life, and the images fire another thought. I've been meaning to ask you, by the way, whether we can have Gemma's laptop and phone back. It's just she always took the most photographs of the family and she keeps them on her laptop. I think of the batch I most longed to see. Gemma in that pink dress we chose together. She gave her phone to the assistant to take the picture. Better camera than mine. And she has pictures of her birthday tea too. I so regret now letting Gemma take all the photographs. She's much better with the technology, but never remembers to message them to me. I'm sorry, but we normally hold on to all evidence until we have a trial. A mobile phone is often crucial. But what about the laptop? She keeps the photos backed up there. More storage. It would mean a lot to me. D.I. Sanders looks at me intently, and I see a softening in her expression. I'll see where we are with checking the laptop, but I can't make any promises. And we'll need to keep the phone. Right, thank you. And Alex, that's why you came here, is it? Just to talk about the scene earlier. I still don't quite understand this visit. Not only that, again she pauses, picking that imagined fluff from her trousers. Alex is suggesting that Gemma had started a secret relationship with one of her professors. He says that's why they broke up. She's been cheating on me. All at once, I'm holding my breath again. It's both shocking and offensive. It doesn't sound like Gemma at all, and my first instinct is to defend her. And yet, I think of the change in Gemma in recent weeks. That distant tone on the phone. That disconnect which I could never understand. Her reluctance to explain her split from Alex. The baby. Dear God. The baby. You knew nothing about that? No, nothing. It's my turn to pause. Do you not think he's just saying that? Making this up, I mean, to get back at her, to cover his tracks? D.I. Sanders rolls her lips together. I continue. So why is Adam saying he came here? Why did he cause that scene and frighten us all? Because he's angry? Bitter? Surely that makes it more likely that he could have been involved in the shooting. D.I. Sanders ignores my question and presses on. Have you ever been aware of either Alex or your daughter involved with guns in any way? Shooting club, clay pigeon shooting, anything like that? No, no, absolutely not. I scraped the hair back from my forehead, but then I turned away. Hang on. They did go on some country weekend once. Scotland. I think there was shooting, but Gemma was upset about it. I don't think she took part. And Alex? I don't know. I don't remember. Do you think you could check? Perhaps look back at the photographs and the dates for me? Find out the name of the place? Yeah, okay. If you like. I take a tissue from my pocket and try my question again. So, what is Alex saying about why he came to the hospital? Is it because we ignored his note? You got the note. I asked the guard to pass it on. Alex was asking to see Gemma. Yes, I did. Thank you. And we were right to ignore it, weren't we? My mind is racing suddenly, wondering if we could have handled it another way. I mean, there's no way we could let him see Gemma. Not after she finished with him. Yes, completely understandable. D.I. Sanders pauses. Look, Alexander says he came here because he wants to know if the baby was his, or from Gemma's new relationship. He says it's his right, and that's why he made the scene. I see. I don't actually. I don't see or understand anything anymore. The whole world no longer makes any sense to me. More scenes are swimming in front of me. I remember Gemma's phone call to me, explaining that they had suddenly split up, and that we needed to cancel all the plans for the joint graduation dinner, the summer Vila holiday together. When was that? I'm trying to do the sums. I also remember that when I asked questions about Alex, she started to raise her voice, to get upset. Shouting. And with the echo of the shouting, other pictures start swirling around my brain, from much further back. Years back. My father slumped at the bottom of the stairs, and my mother shouting, shouting, shouting. Damn, that got my dog barking in the background. Jeez. Opening my lunchbox at school and finding tea bags between the bread and everyone laughing. Tea bag sandwiches! Come here! Rachel's got tea bag sandwiches! I feel very hot suddenly. Confused and terribly hot. Are you alright, Mrs. Hartley? I can hear D.I. Sanders' voice, but I feel this sort of daze. I close my eyes and see my parents in the kitchen. I look down. Pink pajamas with white embroidered hearts, rabbit slippers, and then there's screaming. My mother is screaming. Here, sip this, Miss Hartley. I open my eyes to find D.I. Sanders handing me water. She must have fetched it from the corner of the ward, but I don't remember her moving. I'm sorry, I'm very tired. It's understandable. Shall I leave? Talk again in the morning? No, go on. I need to know what she knows. Why she really came here tonight. I'm sorry to ask, but have they been more exact about the stage of Gemma's pregnancy? I don't want to say it, but she keeps staring at me, raising her eyebrows and then turning her head to the side. She has quite a nice face, actually. Ed doesn't like her, I can tell, but she has warm eyes for all the difficult questions. I guess she's just doing her job. 14 weeks. Right. Thank you. And she split up with Alex when? Again, I don't want to say it. About... I'm sorry, but I have to ask. It's important. About 3 months ago. I can check. We had to cancel a few things. I can look that up. Thank you. That would be a help. I look away, my brain spinning once more as I do the sums again. I had assumed this baby had to be Alex's. It never occurred to me it wouldn't be. I suppose Gemma found out after they split and hadn't wanted to tell anyone. Not even me, her mother. But could it be true about this affair? Is that why she couldn't bring herself to confide in me? Did he give a name? Did Alex say which professor he claimed Gemma was seeing? No. He said he heard rumors but didn't know who it was. You're right. He could be making this up, but we'll be speaking to all of Gemma's tutors as part of the inquiry. I find myself trying to think back to conversations with Gemma about her work. She was always mentioning which modules she liked best. Postmodernism was a favorite, but I don't remember her mentioning the name of any staff. I feel bad for not knowing more, for not asking more questions. I glance at the window into Gemma's cubicle and feel close to tears. How can I miss all this, Gemma? I expect D.I. Sanders to stand and leave, but she doesn't. Is there anything else? I'm sorry, but like I said, I'm actually very tired now. Again, she is looking right into my eyes. I just wanted to ask a few questions about your husband, Mrs. Hartley. For a moment, it's as if the air cools. Yes, the ward, which I normally find so stuffy, feels momentarily colder. Whether there's been any difficulties between you. In the marriage, I mean. Again, I'm sorry to pry, but we have to ask these questions. And your husband has been difficult with our inquiry. With me. You must have noticed that. Our daughter's been shot, Inspector. Of course he's finding it difficult. Yes, quite, but I didn't mean that. I think you know what I mean. That intense stare once more as if she could read my mind. I just wanted to say that if there's anything bothering you, anything you might want to talk to me about privately, you can. Now, or at any time. I wonder if I should just say it, get it over with. On and off since we arrived here, I have wondered if I should mention her. The strange woman. I've been afraid of the consequence. What I did afterwards, I mean. And I can't really believe it has anything to do with any of this. But what if I'm wrong? I look at the floor and get this vivid picture. I can see the scene so clearly. That first day I saw the odd woman, looking at me so strangely from the end of our drive, right at the house. It's a Thursday and it was raining. I was looking out of the kitchen window and she just standing in the rain, staring at the house. No, not just at the house. She was staring at the window, through the window, at me. I've been trying to push all this to the back of my mind because I'm ashamed of my own behavior afterwards. And I haven't wanted to admit what I did to anyone. Ed will never forgive me if he finds out what I did. So is there anything else you want to tell me? Anything at all that might help with the inquiry? I'm completely torn. Fighting tears now. No. I'm actually going to do something real quick. I will be right back. Okay, I have returned. Getting kind of cold in here. I'm gonna actually wrap myself in a blanket right now. Give me 1 second, guys. Cause it is really getting, it's getting cold in here. Alright. Alright. Oh. Yep, I'm covering myself up. It's getting too cold in here. Yeah, so I'm wearing a blanket. So I got a blanket on that may not be fitting for me. So what? As long as I'm getting warm, is that what matters the most? I still would think so, anyway. Alright. We're not even we're not even halfway to where I wanted to be right now. We're close to the halfway mark of where I wanted to be, but we're not exactly there quite yet. So it may have to be more than just 2 parts, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I just have to wait and see. But in any case, let's continue on with the story. Chapter 10. The Private Investigator. Matthew has switched the office landline to answer phone, but with the speaker activated. He listens to it ring. 2, 3, 4 rings. Matthew Hill, Private Investigator. Please leave a message and I'll get right back to you. He grimaces through the long beep. A puzzle that, away from a microphone, his voice echoing in his head sounds utterly unremarkable, yet on playback, it's excruciating. He clears his throat, wondering which version of his voice other people hear. At last, the beep ends. A pause. And then this voice of a woman with an alarmingly breathy tone. I need you, Matthew. There's a longer pause after which the caller rambles about a love of good jewelry. And why shouldn't a widow wear her good jewelry, Matthew? Am I supposed to be embarrassed by my wealth? She talks of the problems of isolation since her husband's passing. He was a very successful man, Matthew. Another pause. Potent. Matthew hears himself gulp. At last the caller continues, and it rapidly becomes clear that what she actually needs is a bodyguard to accompany her on holiday while she wears her biggest diamonds. 2 weeks. South of France. She mentions having booked a wonderful villa, but in a rather remote area. She's prepared to pay a premium on his usual rate and will be happy for him to join her for restaurant reservations. I know some wonderful places. She leaves the details. Matthew finds that his eyes are still wide, uncomfortable now through the lack of blinking. There have been a number of similar approaches in recent months, all politely declined. He should laugh it off, but in truth, it depresses him. Why don't people take his work more seriously? Sal reckons it was the stalker case he worked on. His wise wife had always warned against anything too close to security work. He took on the stalker case strictly as a one-off as he felt very sorry for the woman involved. A journalist, Alice Henderson. It was a legitimate and intense inquiry, at times emotionally grueling, also dangerous. And although it worked out in the end, he's promised Sally not to take on any more remotely resembling bodyguard duties ever again. No Kevin Costner gigs, Matt. It sends the wrong signal. Promise? Promise. Sadly, despite greater clarity on his website, potential clients, many of whom appear purely rich and lonely, are not yet taking the hint. Matthew fears he's losing credibility while Sally is losing patience. These women are clearly fancying you, Matthew. It was that picture in the paper, in that new TV series. People get the wrong idea. Don't be ridiculous, Sally. The local Hero newspaper coverage of the cathedral shooting hasn't helped. The local Sunday ran another big feature yesterday. And while high-profile cases aren't technically good for PR and hence business, Matthew's still quietly disappointed he's not being offered the kind of legitimate and complex investigative work he craves. Interesting cold cases. Shoulder to the wheel. Is that really so much to hope for? Matthew pours a dash of hot milk from the jug on his tray into the remnants of his coffee and sips. Better. It's borderline obscene how quickly good coffee revives him. He's just about to Google advice on options to help Emily, whether in fact they should turn to a professional counselor, when the entry buzzer signals someone at the door downstairs. Matthew frowns and checks his watch. Mondays are normally quiet. There's nothing in the diary, and walk-in clients are rare now that his website urges a phone call or email as first contact. He moves across the office to the intercom, praying it's not someone breathy who wants him to go on holiday. Hello, Matthew Hill. Can I help you? I'm so sorry to turn up here without an appointment, Mr. Hill. It's Ed Hartley, Gemma Hartley's father. Can I come up? I really need to speak to you, please. Matthew's puzzled. His office is already an hour from Gemma's hospital. He presses the buzzer and issues his regular warning about the steepness of the flight of stairs. He holds the door ajar and waves his arm to signal for Ed Hartley to take a seat over to his right. Matthew sits in his own chair behind the desk, but, seeing the ashen nature of Ed Hartley's face, gets straight back up. You look quite shaken, Mr. Hartley. Must be such a difficult time for you. Can I get you a coffee? Or a glass of water? Both, please. Very kind. No problem. To be perfectly honest, I'm surprised to see you. I imagined you'd be at the hospital. I'm on my way back there right now, actually. Haven't had time for breakfast. My wife's staying at the hospital full time still. I've just been nipping home to fetch bits and bobs. Ah, alright, I see. I see. Matthew doesn't see it all, but parks his surprise and moves straight through to the adjoining kitchen to make yet more coffee. I used to live in this flat next to the office. He raises his voice so that Mr. Hartley can hear him through the door connecting the two spaces. We sometimes think about letting it, but I rather like having the kitchen space. And strictly between us, I've been known to take a little nap in the flat after a long night. Ed Hartley lets out a small nervous laugh, but his mouth remains tight, and Matthew watches as he taps his hand against his lips. Tap, tap, tap. His visitor runs his fingers through his hair, crosses his legs, then jerks his right foot up and down repeatedly. By the time Matthew emerges with a cafetiere and hot milk in a jug, he decided against the noise and delay of his espresso machine. Ed's face is even paler. Are you sure you're all right, Mr. Hartley? Well, no, I'm not actually. He takes the mug and nods as Matthew offers to pour in some hot milk, but shakes his head to sugar. How's Gemma doing? Any change? Mr. Hartley just shakes his head again. Matthew takes in a long breath. Okay, so why are you here? What can I do for you? Gemma's father starts a strange rocking in response to the question, his eyes darting around the room as if trying to find the answer among the furnishings. Matthew waits. Mr. Hartley sips at his drink and then stares at his feet. This is probably going to sound a little odd, irregular even. But I was wondering if you might help me find someone, Mr. Hill. It's to put my mind at ease. Purely to put my mind at ease. I'm sorry, I'm not following you. Find who? He does not reply. I'm very sorry, Mr. Hartley, but you're going to have to spill this out for me. Is this something to do with Gemma? With the inquiry? Because if it is, I need to be clear that this is perhaps something we should be discussing with the police, with D.I. Sanders. This is a live and complex investigation, as you know. There's no way I could be taken on. No, I can't talk to D.I. Sanders. And this isn't connected to Gemma. At least, I'm 99% certain it's not connected. I just need the reassurance. You see, that's all this is. To set my mind absolutely at rest. Matthew glances at his mobile on his desk. Mel Sanders will definitely need to be updated on this, but he will need to tread carefully. How about you just tell me what this is? This 1% of worry. Who are you worried about? Who's missing? My wife, Mr. Hill. She's disappeared from the hospital? There's a punch to Matthew's stomach. He's picturing the police guard. Has something gone wrong again at the hospital? No, no, not Rachel. I mean my ex-wife. My first wife. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you'd been married before. Matthew's frowning again. He doesn't recall Melanie mentioning this when they've gone over the case. No one knows. Ed looks up to take in Matthew's expression. I think you'd better tell me everything, don't you? Ed resumes rocking, his agitated expression heightening. She's called Laura, my first wife, and she became unwell. It was all very difficult. It was why we parted. Unwell? It's complicated. I really don't like to talk about it, not to anyone. But the thing is, another pause. The thing is, it's probably just coincidence, not connected in any way at all. But it's been preying on my mind, you see. What has? We met in the cathedral, me and Laura. We met in the cathedral, Mr. Hill. Chapter 11. The Father Before. Ed Hartley has come to spend a lot of his time wondering about fate, the weather, timing. He will muse most of all about the rain that Thursday in Wells. Had it been dry, he would never have met Laura. Fact is, his first marriage only happened because of a deluge. He was in Wells to give a presentation, pitching for new clients for his agency, but it was all canceled at the last minute because the rain was so severe it caused a landslip and disrupted all the trains. And the only reason he went into the coffee shop was to shelter from the relentless downpour. And if he hadn't gone into the coffee shop, he would never have gone to the cathedral. He was 25 years, he was 25, just a few years out of uni. He'd been in a marketing job for a mid-sized agency for just 18 months and was still enjoying the novelty of traveling for pitches and meetings, a hotel and expenses. But with his presentation suddenly canceled, he was at a loose end. He was bored with his hotel, which had over-enthusiastic air conditioning, so he'd wandered into town, op- opti- optimistically hoping the rain would ease. It didn't. And so, on his second cup of coffee, he found himself turning into the conversation of two women at the adjoining table. They were hurrying their drinks and checking their watches, apparently anxious to make it to the cathedral in time for the clock thingy. What clock thingy? Ed couldn't help himself. He turned to stare at the women as they gathered up their things and for a beat considered asking out loud. But that would mean owning up to earwigging, so he turned back to his coffee instead, pretending to consider adding a sachet of sugar. One of the women was now telling the other to hurry. Come on, noon is the best time for the clock. We need to get a shift on. That decided it. Ed liked clocks, especially unusual ones. But what could be so special about a clock in the cathedral? He reached into his jacket pocket for the tourist pamphlet, picked up from the hotel reception, just as his two neighbors made for the door. Wells Cathedral had half a page, and yes, the clock had a special mention. It dated back to around 1390. Right. Decided. He stood, slurped the last of his coffee, and headed for the door himself. It was too windy for his umbrella, so by the time he reached the cathedral, he was pretty much wet through. It was not the largest of cathedrals, but he loved the mellow color of the stone, the arches. At the information desk, he was told there were no official tickets that day. A woman in a bright pink blouse signaled the voluntary contribution box. He dropped in some pound coins, asked what the clock and was told to hurry. There's a guide at midday to explain it all. It was easy to see where to head. A small group of visitors were craning their necks to view something high up. A guide had a small torch that he was shining up onto the wall, sweeping his other arm as he continued his spiel. Ed moved forward to perch on a little stone shelf that others were also using as a seat. Somehow he lost his grip on his redundant umbrella, and it slid with a clatter to the floor. All eyes turned. A woman with a long, strawberry blonde hair smiled at him as the guide paused to check on the noise from before moving the torch back to the clock high up in front of them. The story was impressive. The oldest clock face in the world, apparently. But what you will enjoy, ladies and gentlemen, is the unusual action with the chime. The guide checked his watch. Just a few more seconds and you will see what I mean. Ed stared up at the clock and wondered what to expect. Some kind of unusual bell? Music? He was surprised to find the anticipation so enjoyable, an unexpected boost to this dismal wet day. At last the chimes began and little doors at the top of the clock opened to reveal the twist. Not cuckoos, not birds of any kind, but knights on horseback. Jousting. He smiled and turned to see everyone in the little crowd smiling with him. Two sets of knights were on some kind of circuit traveling in opposite directions, so it really did look like a mini joust. Very clever. Given the time, the display lasted through the whole 12 chimes, and Ed at last understood the new recommendation. When the chimes finished, everyone clapped. The tour guide then turned off his torch and, to Ed's slight embarrassment, encouraged them all to join in a little prayer together. It was not that Ed was an atheist, more that he was entirely indifferent about religion, but he paused politely as a short prayer and blessing was announced. And it was during this little moment that the woman with the strawberry blonde hair caught his eye apparently stifling a laugh. As everyone then slowly dispersed, Ed was surprised to see the woman move towards him. I'm sorry, that was very rude of me. Disrespectful. I didn't mean to cause offense. Are you religious? Please forgive me if you're religious. I can't help it when I get nervous. I really didn't mean to. It's fine. No, not offended at all. I'm not religious myself. He had lowered his voice to a whisper. But jolly good clock. I just came in to shelter from the rain, to be honest. Me too. So have you had a look around the rest of the cathedral? He realized, even as the words escaped his mouth, that this sounded like an invitation. Was that his intention? No. You? She had rather strange eyes. Not quite green and not quite brown. His own mother had green eyes, and he was wondering what percentage of the population did too. Not many, he suspected, as it felt unusual. He would look it up. Wasn't it an Irish thing to have green eyes? But she didn't sound Irish. The soft accent that he hadn't placed yet. He was staring now. The eyes looked greener. Odd. Was it a change in the light? She didn't look away. Please say no if I'm intruding, but if you fancy some company looking around. She was smiling, still holding his gaze. Oh, yes. Lovely. Though I'm no expert. Cathedrals, I mean. He signaled with his hand for her to take the lead, and they set off towards the far end of the cathedral. Ed pretended to read labels as they moved from one area to another, but was in truth stealing glances to take in his new companion. She was wearing a deep red coat with a battered black leather satchel. It was worn across her body in a long, wide strap that dug into her shoulder, making quite an indentation in the fabric of the coat. Evidently heavy. He found himself wondering what was in the satchel. None of his business, but after a while it burned like the curiosity over the women chatting alongside him in the cafe. I hope you don't mind me asking, but your bag. It looks quite heavy. It's all right. She leaned forward conspiratorially. It's not a bomb. It's not a bomb. Well, that's a relief. He didn't get the tone quite right, and she kept her expression entirely neutral, which for a moment alarmed him. He could feel his face reddening. I'm teasing. Music manuscripts. Lots. Right. Okay. And you can I'm teasing. Music manuscripts. Lots. Oh, right. Okay. and you're carrying them because I teach music and I'm typically on my way to work. I'm freelance, but I teach at the Elderbury School now, piano and violin. I've only been there a few weeks, so I'm still playing tourist. Now he was really interested. Ed had not a musical bone in his body, and both admired and envied those who did. He had tried guitar lessons. His teacher had made an admirable effort, but Ed just couldn't make sense of the music on the page. Odd, because he was good at numbers and so had imagined it would be similar. But he just couldn't get the hang of it. 3 terms and he finally threw in the towel. Once again he realized that he was staring at his new companion. Lunch. I was going to get myself an early lunch, he said. I don't suppose you fancy joining me. I'm afraid I don't know anywhere, but we could busk it. The Hedgehog Cafe. She was smiling. Don't worry, they don't serve hedgehogs. That's probably illegal. There's a story behind the name of the cafe, but I have forgotten it. One of my pupils recommended it. Cool place. Great soup. Soup it is, then. She then linked her arm through his, with a satchel on the other side of her body. I'll see if I can hail us a canoe, he winked, and she laughed, and he felt a little bubble in his stomach. It was the perfect surprise on this wet day, and he felt light and excited and happy. He will come to look back on that moment often, with his head in his hands in the heaviest of hearts, thinking, yes, about fate, destiny, the fluke of timing, for he could not know that this would be the woman he would marry. He could not know that within 2 years he would be living an entirely different life with her in Canada. He could not know that one day he would wake up to visit the bathroom and she would be screaming and screaming and screaming. And everything would suddenly swirl and spiral into a dark, dark place, like the rainwater rushing from the drains as they hurried on to the Hedgehog Cafe that very first day. Hey, Thomas, how are you doing tonight? I'm doing pretty well, though, but how are you doing tonight? And it should be duly noted, I will be reading the chapters, so the chapters in between comments, so if I don't get your comment the first time, just be worried that I am reading a chapter. And I will respond afterward, after I'm done reading it. Chapter 12. The Daughter Before. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. The Quest for Identity. I haven't even reread it for the essay yet. The book, I mean. I have no idea if it's a quest for identity or not. I'll have to... I'm doing a good thing you did. I'm doing good. Did you pre-order? No, not yet, but I am going to try to. I do have one more paycheck before that game comes out, so yeah. But yes, I do plan on pre-ordering the game, regardless of which version of the game I'm getting. It doesn't matter which version of the game I'm getting, as long as I pre-order the game. That's what I'm doing. Pre-ordered it. Do I need to guess which version of the game you pre-ordered? Because I'm pretty sure most people are going to go after the $120 deal, but I can understand some people are going to be going after the $100 deluxe edition, or if they don't have too much money to spend for that, then the standard edition would be for them. But they would have to wait 3 more days compared to the other one. Let Tag Team Deluxe. Ah, okay. I have no idea if it's a quest for identity or not. I have to make a big pot of coffee and pull an all-nighter. There's no way I can ask S for special favors. Not after... Crazy. I've only just realized the irony. Tea parties. Mad Hatters. It's how my whole life feels right now. Down a stupid rabbit hole. It's as if I've gone mad myself. What I get now, way too late, is that I should have trusted my first instinct. I should have canceled the birthday celebration. I should have told Mom the truth. Most important of all, I should have told Alex straight up that we needed a break. Instead, typical disastrous me. I was too confused. I went for the easiest and most cowardly option, which was to do nothing. To go with the flow. It's a mom thing, really. Why don't we all just go with the flow? Lighten up. I used to think it was so good. And my mom hates arguments so much that she works so hard to avoid them. It was only when I hit my teens and had friends around that I realized, through them, that it was a bit weird. Unusual. She sort of goes into this zone, my mother, and anytime anyone in the family gets upset, she says things like, I absolutely will not let this build into something silly. No, no, I'm not listening to you. I'm walking away. You can talk to me when you've calmed down. She would go into the kitchen and bake something. Later she'd present the cakes or flapjacks or whatever, and I'd think, here we go. And of course I'd feel a bit better. Cake always makes you feel better. But as I got older, I sort of wished I'd been able to stand my ground sometimes, because I think that's what I'm realizing now, is that I don't have the courage to tell my mom any stuff that will upset her. I remember I did push it once when I was doing my A levels. I got really mad at her. Some argument over how much revision I was doing, and when she was walking away, you need to calm down, Gemma. I was shouting. I wanted her to listen. I wanted her to thrash it out with me for once. She retreated as she always does, to the kitchen. I shouted down the stairs at her. I said she was a coward, that I hated her stupid cakes, and then I went down and found her sitting on the kitchen floor with her back to the cupboards, sobbing. She claimed she tripped and that was why she was crying, but I didn't believe her. She wouldn't say what it was. She wouldn't even look at me, and her whole body was like trembling. I felt so guilty. It freaked me out. So from that day, whenever Mom gave me her look, I just backed down. Piped down. That's why I didn't tell her about Alex scaring me. It would have upset her so badly. And I just didn't want any of that. You see, Mom had booked 2 treats for my 21st. A trip to Paris, just touring me in a month's time, and the family weekend thing with Alex, including champagne afternoon tea at this posh hotel. She'd gone to so much trouble, I didn't want to prick her balloon. I didn't want to upset her. Alex had been so sorry after his meltdown, so calm and apologetic and considerate, that I started to think I had overreacted. I decided to go along with the visit home, just because it was simpler. For Mom, for me, for everyone. And do you know what? He was great. Perfect company. The textbook boyfriend. On the train home, he fetched my favorite snacks from the buffet. He backed off, let me read my book without interrupting. He caught my gaze now and again, gave me his little wink and smile, and it felt just like it did right at the beginning. As if the argument and all the stuff with social media had never happened. He brought a lovely gift from my mom without even telling me. She collects ceramic jugs and he'd found a small, very unusual one in the gallery. You should have seen her face. Well, goodness me, how very thoughtful of you, Alex. And the afternoon tea was fab. Dad ordered a tea he'd never tried. Silver leaf, which made super pale tea. We thought it would have no flavor, but it was divine. There was champagne too, and the food was incredible. I had to take so many photos. Little spiced crab things. These amazing little treats on edible soil. And the cakes! More like works of art. We were absolute pigs, all of us. The waiter brought us a box for the leftovers, but we were embarrassed that there was hardly anything to go in it. I am writing all the detail because I want to hang on to it. The memory of it. I honestly can't believe that was just 3 weeks ago and so much has changed. I feel so ashamed and confused and disappointed with myself. I want to go back to that tea. I want to be sitting there again with that crab things and the beautiful cakes, and I want to take my mom home and quietly and secretly tell her the truth about me and Alex. My doubts, my worries. I want to go back and do that, without making her sit on the floor and cry. Maybe if I'd done that, found a way to talk to Mom, I wouldn't have so stupidly confided in S instead. Not saying his name. Literally, that's what the book says, not saying his name. Oh my word. What's the matter with me? I'm supposed to be intelligent. I'm supposed to be heading for a first. So why am I such a complete and utter disaster? Okay, so this is what happened. We had the lovely weekend. We caught the train home, and everything was fine. And then the second we got back to my room at the flat, Alex's face changed right in front of me. No kidding. It was like Jekyll and Hyde. He started asking me why I thought it was okay to openly flirt with a waiter in front of him. What waiter? The one at the tea, he said. The waiter at the hotel. And don't pretend to be innocent. You were practically eyeballing his crotch. What? Shock doesn't even come close. I had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. Sure, the waiter was friendly. He made a fuss because it was my birthday. He made it nice for all of us. But there was no flirting. No way. At first, I was too surprised to know what to do. Then I told Alex to leave, but he wouldn't. He walked right up close to me, banging on about the waiter. I remembered that time he grabbed my arm and I felt nervous. I didn't feel completely safe, so I went to the kitchen and told him I would stay there and scream for help if he didn't leave. I had my phone in my hand and I almost rang my mother. I wish I had, but in the end, after about half an hour, when I threatened to knock on my flatmate's doors, he finally left. I didn't sleep. I decided it was definitely over with Alex. I realized I should have finished it before the weekend away. I knew that I needed to stop worrying about pride, to make a clean break, and to tell my parents. Face up to my mistakes and my embarrassment, too. I had a meeting with S, one of my English teachers, scheduled for 10:30 the next morning. I had this strange feeling in my stomach about it, and I nearly canceled. I realize now, yet again, that I should have listened to my instinct, but I didn't. Instead, I had a couple of strong coffees to try to wake myself up. But the problem was my brain was still really, really foggy. I had hoped to blag my way through the session. And here's the thing. I always look forward to my sessions with him, usually. Everyone likes S. He's a bit older. Maybe 40s? But the coolest and smartest of the professors. Okay, honest truth? Most of the undergrads have a bit of a crush. We joke about it, but I absolutely swear that I never in a million years imagined. Anyway, you can probably guess where this is going. I don't even know how it started, how it happened, what the hell I was thinking. I was just sitting there in this sort of daze, and then he was looking at me in this weird way. You don't seem yourself, Gemma. You look pale. Is anything wrong? Is there anything I can help you with? It's the worst thing, isn't it? For someone to ask you if you're okay when you're not okay. It's the last thing you need. And I'm just not used to it because that's not how things roll in my family. Asking, prodding, talking about feelings. I should have said I was fine or pretended I was ill. I should have gone back to the flat. Or to Maddie's, if she wasn't so loved up with a new guy. But I didn't. I started crying. Of course. And everything after that is just this big and embarrassing, totally humiliating blur. This was 3 weeks ago, and I have stupidly made things so much worse. I seriously can't believe what I've done. Worst of all, I can't even confide in anyone about Alex now because of what I've done. So I'm staring at the title of this essay. I haven't even started, and I realize that I am her. For real. I am Alice down the rabbit hole, and I don't see any way back for me now. The entire team got to the. Oh, let's see. Let's see what happens. Chapter 13. The Private Investigator. Matthew has never seen Mel this agitated. At first, she won't even look at him. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't drive straight to the hospital and arrest him for obstructing our inquiry. Mel Sanders is stirring her coffee vigorously as she speaks, the froth spilling onto the saucer and teaspoon clinking against the china. His daughter's in a coma, Mel. She's lost a leg. He's a father. He's in agony. Matthew pauses. Also, the tabloids will have a complete field day if you arrest him. Quite apart from the fact this is a very much a long shot. I mean, it needs checking out. And yes, he should have told you about the first marriage. I made that crystal clear to him. But at this point, we've no idea if this first wife really is a suspect. Ed Hartley doesn't think so. He's just nervous about the cathedral coincidence. But what if she is a suspect? What if he's called it all wrong? We've lost days, Matt. It's unforgivable for him to withhold this from us. There's a pause. At last, Mel looks up from her drink and Matthew's trying to read his former colleague's expression. He knows she's just blowing off steam. If she really planned to arrest Ed Hartley, she would have done so already. But she does still look very tired. You sure you're okay, Mel? Just a bit tired. George has decided now is a good time to become allergic to sleep. Oh dear. Matthew remembers the no sleep phase all too well. Small child, big case. Not an easy combination. Suddenly he understands why Mel's not quite herself. I'll be fine. Just really need to get somewhere with this case. Matthew checks his watch. Gemma's father has agreed to meet Mel at the police station around noon to answer questions about his first wife. It took all of Matthew's negotiating skills to achieve even this. To be frank, he's no idea himself what to make of this new twist. Ed Hartley shared only the bare bones of his story before dashing off in a huff to the hospital. Look, you have the first wife's full details now, Mel. We know there was some kind of mental health crisis, and Ed Hartley gave us the name of her clinic. So is there any word from Canada? Matthew has tried the clinic himself but drawn a blank. Patient confidentiality. He's praying Mel's had good Lord luck. She's discharged herself a good while back. You're kidding me. Now he understands her mood. I wish. Also, the paperwork's missing. The clinic's had some bad media coverage lately over standards and security. Patients being released without proper supervision and follow-up. An undercover reporter did some secret filming, posing as a nurse. It's been something of a scandal over there. Oh no, that's not good. So do you know where the ex-wife is now? Well, Leah's in with the Canadians, but you know how slowly those wheels grind, especially as I don't yet have the full picture. Proper grounds, I mean. They're doing me a favor at this stage, checking the family address he gave you, but it seems out of date. Matthew twists his mouth to the side and narrows his eyes. So why didn't you arrest him, really? If you're that cross, that worried, why did you want to meet me instead? Melanie Sanders takes a deep breath and leans back on her seat. Okay, cards on the table. I have something to ask you, Matt. He's full on curious now, widening his eyes to signal that she should continue. As I said before, I have the rare treat of a proper budget. They want this sorted, so I have carte blanche to run this inquiry the way I want. Grief. These suits upstairs must really be worried. They are, Matt. We've got universities and tourist boards all over the country in meltdown. They know it's not terrorism, but some are worrying about copycats. They're worrying about absolutely everything, to be perfectly honest with you. There's loads of chatter online among students and parents, none of it good. And now I need to worry if someone in Canada is involved. So I need to work fast. And I need help. So I want to hire you, Matt, officially, as a civilian expert, profiler, whatever you want to be called. I know I'm always joking about this, but I'm deadly serious this time. I need you. Matthew pulls his chin back into his neck. Can you even do that? On this one, I can do what the hell I like, so long as I get the job done. Please say yes, Matt. A pause. I really need you. Matthew feels a wave of something travel right through his body and cannot make out whether it is adrenaline, excitement, or blind panic. Ever since he left the force, he wondered if there would be a road back one day, but had always pushed the thought away. Setting up the business and working as a freelancer have created financial pressures that have demanded an entirely different mindset. He looks at Mel and realizes that deep down he's hoped for this moment. What about Sal? With Emily playing up, she'll be wary, especially after the danger he put himself in at the cathedral. This is a surprise, Mel. I honestly don't know what to say. Fact is, they've cooperated together informally on several cases, and Mel's forever joking about getting him back on the force, but never officially, never openly. There will be proper paperwork, a contract, invoices, and all that jazz. I can't get HR to sort it all out if that's what you're worried about. It isn't that he's worried about. It's Sally he's worried about. Also, Emily's nightmares and her reluctance to go to nursery. Will working with Mel make this all worse for his family? Or better? I need to think about it. And talk to Sal. You know how upset she was after the cathedral. Right. Yes, of course. She stared at him. Her pale face is strained what she now realizes is pure exhaustion. Look, Matt, I'm going to the university next to speak to the chancellor. We liaised by phone, but she wants to face to make a decision fast about the final graduation ceremony this Friday. The press want to know what's happening. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm feeling the pressure and I'm worried about making the wrong call. I can't win. If we cancel, we're admitting we can't keep people safe. If we go ahead and anything happens, she takes in a deep breath. Will you come with me? Sit in on this meeting and the interview with Ed Hartley afterwards. Tell me what you think. And how will you explain me tagging along? I'll think of something. Please say yes, Matt. Sit in with me today and see how you feel, and give me your decision about a more formal arrangement tomorrow. How does that sound? But don't you need approval for this, Mel? I thought the National Crime Agency supplied their own experts. We're short on numbers as well, you know. It's pretty hard to mouth out there. They're hiring retired detectives all over the country. But I'm not retired. Ex-job, same thing. This'll be up to me, Matt. Please say you'll at least consider it. I'm up against the clock here. Okay, I'll do today. See how we go. He's downs the rest of his coffee, trying once again to put a label on the feeling in his stomach. Is it excitement? Or is it a warning? A signal that putting himself in the firing line of one more time might just be pushing his luck too far. I may actually have to cut this down a little bit to less than where I was halfway. I'll start to where I'm at the quarter way then, if that's the case. Chapter 14. The Mother. I glance across Gemma's bed at Ed. He's pretending to read his book but hasn't turned a page in ages. He arrived late this morning and looks tired. Snappy, too. Look, things just took longer than I thought, Rachel. It's not easy, you know, juggling everything. I don't rise to it. Does Ed really think Gemma wants to hear conflict? But it feels awkward sitting in silence today, both of us pretending to read. I know from his expression that there's something very wrong. Beyond the obvious, I mean. For myself, I keep daydreaming, thinking about that little moment with D.I. Sanders, and how I wanted to tell her about the odd woman who turned up not once, not twice, but 3 times this past month. I can't honestly believe that some strange woman is going to have anything to do with all of this, but I still feel guilty for not mentioning it. The problem is my mind goes round and round in circles. If I tell the police about the woman, I will have to tell them what I did afterwards about it, and I don't want Ed to find out. I look across at my husband again. Make no mistake, Ed is a good man and a good father. I love him very much, and I would say that we have a good marriage. But what is it really? A good marriage? Is it strong enough to survive what's happening to Gemma? Is it strong enough to survive what I did over that stupid woman? Is it strong enough to survive the fact that I don't always tell the truth? Can't? Won't? Certainly there's sometimes this odd space between Ed and me, which I can't quite explain. When we first met, he said he'd been hurt badly in the past, but he wouldn't talk about it. Boy, if anyone can understand not wanting to talk about something from the past, it's me. I didn't push him, and he didn't push me. I just assumed it was a classic commitment phobia. A guy making excuses. He lived in Canada for a bit and said a business venture had gone pear-shaped there. He didn't like to talk about it because it made him feel a failure. He wanted a clean slate, a fresh start. I remember feeling this extraordinary bubble of hope because that was exactly what I wanted too. A clean slate, a fresh start. It was as if we were made for each other. Anyway, I was wrong about the commitment phobia because he's the loveliest and most loyal of men. We did get married. We made a good life, and most of the time, we're very happy together. But every now and again, when I ask the wrong question, especially about the past, he gets like this. Defensive, wearing an expression that is warning me off. No, it's worse than a warning. It's like it's not my Ed at all. And I know it's completely hypocritical of me to push, given that I hate people doing that to me, but this is different. This is about Gemma. Is there something wrong, Ed? Something beyond this, I mean? I glance at Gemma in the bed. Something we need to talk about? Outside? I signal to the door, but he doesn't answer. Just looks at the floor. Okay, so here's the truth. After I caught that really odd woman staring at me through the kitchen window, I had this flutter of suspicion that maybe Ed was having an affair. That maybe he hadn't had enough of me flouncing off to the kitchen whenever we had a little upset. That the woman was his mistress and was checking me out. I tried to tell myself not to be so stupid, but the whole thing got worse. The suspicion grew and grew, because I caught her watching me on 2 more occasions. The second time was at the hairdresser's about a week later. I had a head full of foil for my highlights, so I couldn't go out to the street to confront her. But it was definitely the same woman, and she was watching me specifically through the window again. And the third and final time, I was just out in town window shopping. I fancied a new coat in the sales and was just strolling from shop to shop when I caught her reflection in one of the windows. She was standing behind me, just staring again. This time I'd had enough, so I called out to her. Who are you? What are you, and why are you following me? She stepped forward then and leaned towards me to say something really odd. He's not who he says he is. I have to warn you. He's not who he says he is. So here's the embarrassing confession. After that I completely freaked out. There was no way I was having this out with Ed directly. He'd only lie. So instead I hired a private investigator to see if Ed was having an affair with her. The thing is, I started asking Ed where he'd been and what he'd been doing and if everything was alright with the marriage. If he would ever lie to me. He got quite defensive, and I read in the magazine that could be a sign of infidelity. My suspicions just sort of spiraled and I found the PI online. I'm ashamed now because the private investigator charged quite a lot of money but found absolutely nothing. You have a faithful husband, Mrs. Hartley. Our daughter had been shot and you want us... Our daughter has been shot and you want to start this all up again? Questioning me? Navel contemplating? Picking at the marriage? He's whispering, still looking at the floor. No, Ed. I just feel a bit guilty that I find it hard. I pause. Well, that I find it hard to talk about difficult stuff, but we need to be there for each other. I am here for you. Yes. I pause and take in a deep, slow breath, feeling even more guilty. You are. I turn to look at our daughter, her skin pale and her eyes firmly closed. Could she hear this? Could you hear this, even when we are whispering? For a second I drift away again. I can hear my father's voice booming from the kitchen. I can hear plates and glasses smashing. I am standing in the doorway, just a little girl, and I can see my mother's eyes glaring at me. Go to your room, Rachel. Go now! I told Ed and Gemma, too, that I had a happy childhood, that my parents' split was amicable. I listened again to the smashing sounds from the kitchen and all those years ago, and I remember covering my ears and looking down at my rabbit slippers. We really mustn't squabble in front of Gemma. We should go outside. Oh, Rachel, for heaven's sake, we can't go outside every time we need to talk. It's ridiculous. I'm sure she can't hear us. She can't hear whispering. I keep quiet for a while, just looking at Gemma, watching her chest rise and fall ever so gently. I can feel this tightening in my stomach, pushing away all the pictures from the past. You know how much I love you both? Isn't that enough? Ed's tone is really strange. I'm sorry, Ed. It's the strain and the lack of sleep. He reaches for my hand and squeezes it. The police want me to go and meet with them again, Rachel. I said I'd go to the station. I know it upsets you when they come here. I spin my head to look them in the eye. But what do they want? Do they have a lead? Is it to do with Alex? Shouldn't they be talking to both of us together? I have no idea. They said they'd explain when I get there. Will you be alright this afternoon? Here on your own, I mean. I can try to put them off if you'd prefer. No, no, don't put them off. It might be a breakthrough. It might be news about Alex. Maybe something's coming from his interviews, or the phone footage. I frown, only now realizing that I have a headache starting. And would you ask again about the laptop? If we can have the laptop? Once more I'm thinking of all the visits, all the photographs, all of us smiling. You don't really think Alex was the one who did this, do you? Ed doesn't answer, and I look at the cabinet beside Gemma's bed, where he's placed sandwiches from the deli. Crab for me and brie, and caramelized onion for him. I wonder if Gemma's kept all the photos of her birthday celebration. Afternoon tea with Alex. All those fancy sandwiches. It feels a lifetime ago. Gemma and Alex broke up soon afterwards, but she never explained why. Did he really do this to her? I look back at Ed and realize I will have to tell the police about the odd woman, just in case. But would D.I. Sanders tell Ed about the private investigator? Ed holds my stare, and I can't read his expression. Whatever happens with the police, Ed's voice is slower, very quiet. You know that I love you. You and Gemma. I love you both more than anything in the world. Why did you say that? What do you mean, whatever happens with the police? It doesn't matter. I turn to see that his eyes are distant, and there's this new and dreadful feeling deep in the pit of my stomach. Why did you say that, Ed? He shakes his head and turns away from me. I stare at his profile, widening my eyes and willing him to explain, but there's only the bleeping of Gemma's machine breaking the silence. Bleep, bleep. I can feel the gap between Ed and me widening, stretching and stretching. Bleep, bleep. I close my eyes and just don't know what to do. I'm thinking again about that strange woman. He's not who he says he is. Was she just some loner? Some misfit? Or did she really mean it after all? Chapter 15. The Private Investigator. It's in the Chancellor's office. Matt's head is still swimming with the news that Ed's first wife is AWOL. Also Mel's surprise approach. They traveled in separate cars to the cafe, and there's been no time yet to ring Sally. He's done a very quick check of the diary on his phone. 2 surveillance jobs booked for messy divorce cases. It's the kind of bread and butter work he despises but can't afford to refuse. He'll need to honor those bookings, but can't deny that working on this case officially is a great deal more appealing than fielding calls from witch widows. The Chancellor's office isn't small, but manages to feel claustrophobic. So much wood. Matthew glances around at the paneling. The 2 huge wooden desks. Why 2, he wonders. And the floor-to-ceiling bookcase entirely filing one wall. He doesn't recognize the wood, which has quite a yellow tone. You, maybe? Whatever the timber, it makes him think of saunas. He feels hot suddenly, pulling at his shirt collar. We have a meeting with the senior management team later, the Chancellor's repeating herself. Miss Emily Brockenert has nearly confirmed on a small inevitably wooden name stand on her desk. Is dressed immediately in a turquoise suit with white blouse and pearls and the foil of huge red glasses. She looks very focused, but also hot, suddenly sliding off her jacket and hooking it over to the back of the chair. Matthew takes the coffee cup handed to him as Miss Brockenhurst holds up a bowl with sugar. He shakes his head to the sugar and watches Mel out of the corner of his eye. She's playing her usual clever game. Silent. Waiting. We need to make this decision about the final graduation ceremony. Whether to go ahead on Friday. I need to let everyone know by the morning. Parents want to know whether to claim free funds on hotels. It's getting tight. The Chancellor clears her throat. I'm sorry, it's sensitive of me. I meant to ask first if there's any more news on the poor girl's condition. My staff have been in touch with the hospital, but not being family stable. No change. Gemma's still in a coma. Melody's tone is steady, and Matthew likes that she emphasizes Gemma's name. We're all under pressure, Chancellor. I do understand. Been a tough weekend. Mel puts her own cup down on the edge of the desk. And are we nearer finding who did this, D.I. Sanders, since we last spoke? We're doing everything we can, and I have good people. Mel turns to Matthew. Right. Good. Of course, I've asked our head of communications, Amanda, to join us, by the way. The Chancellor starts sifting through papers in front of her. She's drawn up the report you wanted on all the extra security arrangements. Also the press statements we put out when, or rather if, we go ahead. The Chancellor looks at her watch. She'll be with us in just a few minutes. I just wanted to give us some time alone in case you have anything you wish to share with me privately. Do you have any leads? As you know from the papers, we have someone in custody, but no firm evidence yet. We have to assume that the person who shot Gemma Hartley could still be at large. There's no denying that canceling Friday is the safest option. And is that what you recommend, Inspector? Matthew watches Mel closely. He knows that senior officers want the public reassured. They don't want to signal that the force can't keep the peace, can't keep people safe. We don't want the public thinking we can't keep them safe. It's a balancing act. Mel reaches for her coffee cup again. I'm going to be frank, Inspector. We already have foreign students canceling their courses. The blow to income is considerable. Parents are reading in constantly. I want people to be safe too, but I also want my university to survive. It would be a lift if we could end the summer with a happier memory. There's a knock at the door before Mel could answer. That will be our press officer. The Chancellor lowers her head. Her voice, not her. Yeah, Forrest, just read ahead, think of what you're going to read. The Chancellor lowers her voice. I should mention strictly between us that she took it hard. What happened in the cathedral, Amanda? She's having counseling. Great asset to the university. Very capable. She's been working around the clock all weekend. Come in! The Chancellor shuffles the paper in front of her into a neat pile. A tall woman then enters the room, carrying a stack of reports, and Matt recognizes her as the woman who had helped him with his students in the two holding rooms at the back of the cathedral directly after the shooting. She was very shaken, he remembers, but impressively capable nonetheless. She didn't flee. You may remember Amanda from the cathedral, Matthew. She tells me you were marvelous. Matthew nods and Amanda's eyes look strained suddenly. You can understand why it would haunt her too. Ice cream. Ice cream. He feels a little guilty for asking so much of her and Tom that day. Must have been difficult. The student panicked in the locked rooms. The reason for the counseling? Amanda did very well, he says. And Tom. There was a Marine who stepped up too. I'd have struggled without your help, both of you. Thank you. She pauses, then shakes his hand and Mel's too before passing each of them a document. Right. So, here we've summarized all the extra security suggestions. Matthew quickly glances through it. The list includes use of a specialist consultancy and a range of measures including airport-style scanners and marquees outside the cathedral. We're assuming the police would also offer extra support. The Chancellor is looking directly at Melanie again. Amanda has drawn up a draft statement for the press. If we go ahead, Amanda says suddenly. Quite. The Chancellor's expression is difficult to read. We'll do a sweep of the cathedral and have uniformed officers for reassurance, Mel says. Senior officers don't want an obvious armed presence, but we'll have backup on standby. Matthew glances at Amanda, who's still looking tense. The Chancellor seems to notice. Look, I like directness too, so you should know that we have divided opinions in the senior management team over what to do. The Chancellor clears the throat. Our head of student counseling has concerns, but we have terrific support in place, for the students and the staff too. The bottom line here is we have to get past this, and like it or not, we have to think of the bigger picture, the future of the university. So you're not advising against going ahead, Inspector? Mel narrows her eyes. It's a difficult call, but no, I'm not. Good, good. And are we likely to see anyone charged this week? Before the ceremony, I mean? In an ideal world, but I can't say. Mel takes in a long, slow breath. By the way, there is one line of inquiry that you might be able to help with. Fire away. There's a suggestion that Gemma may have been having an affair with one of her tutors, a member of staff. The Chancellor looks shocked. She looks over at Amanda, then back at Melanie. And do you have evidence of this, Inspector? No, but there have been rumors. I've heard nothing. Amanda, are you aware of this? The press officer shakes her head. Right. Well, we'll need to quash that. Probably just tittle-tattle. The Chancellor's fiddling with the pearls around her neck. Possibly. But we'll need a list of all Gemma's tutors for interviews. And if you do hear anything at all, you'll be sure to let us know. Mel is staring at the Chancellor now. Of course. And that other list I asked for? Any staff sacked, tribunals, anyone who might hold a grudge? It's in hand. Unfortunately, my hand of people is in Maltona, would you believe? Oh, goodness, the hurricane? Matthew widens his eyes. The chaos of Maltona Island has been on the news for 3 days, so that's why the list's been slow to arrive. She's safe, thank God. They all got to higher ground. She managed to borrow some reporter's satellite phone to contact family, but all comms are down again. She doesn't expect to be flown out for a few more days. But I've got other staff working on the list for you, by tomorrow latest. Thank you. Though I'd really like to speak to your HR lead on Meltona if that's at all possible. What's your name? Molly Price. Right. We'll try the comms on our side, but if she gets through again, would you ask her to ring me? Sure. And you mentioned student support. Can we run another check on whether Gemma was seeing anyone? A counselor? Anything like that? That would be confidential. The Chancellor is frowning. In an attempted murder inquiry, I'm afraid nothing is confidential. Mel stands to signal the meeting's over. Right. Forensics are nearly finished on site. We'll release the cathedral back to the authorities by tomorrow, and I look forward to your board's decision. She doesn't shake hands again, just heads to the door. Of course. We meet at 6 p.m. I'll email you straight afterwards. Matthew follows Mel, but at the door she suddenly turns back. Oh, by the way, I heard some rumblings of redundancies. Could we have that list too? Matthew suddenly understands why Mel is so keen to speak to the HR lead. The Chancellor is also standing. All universities are up against it, financially. No secret there. We hope to use voluntary severance. There's no list yet, Inspector. No decision, no disputes. We have a happy ship. Mel pauses and smiles before leaving the door. Matthew follows him there, careful to say nothing until safely out of the building. As Mel fires the central locking key towards her car, she leans into the rear passenger door. So what do you make of them? Our Chancellor and our head of communications. Not sure, but they clearly disagree over the final ceremony. And what do you think, Matt? Have I called it all wrong? Should I have played safe and advised cancellation? Like you said before, you can't win either way. Mel opens her driver's door, which gives me precisely 4 days to crack this case. With your help, she grins. He tilts his head but is careful not to reply. What's your gut saying, Matt? He pauses to think, but not for too long. That would defeat the object. My gut's saying it's to do with the baby. We obviously can't press for paternity tests while she's in a coma. Legal nightmare. But we do need to find out who the father is. Okay, Matt, I think I might agree with you. Meantime, let's go see Gemma's dad. Find out why the hell he's been lying to us, eh? Oh, shit. You know what, I'll go ahead and read Chapter 6 and that'll be the end of this stream. Chapter 16. Lemon. The card is assembled now, and I'm pleased with it. The curtains are up too. Lemons, of course. And I have found a matching duvet. Lemon with little white elephants. There's still work to be done. So many boxes in the corner to be unpacked and sorted. But I feel it is all finally coming together. And I like to come in here in the evening now and sit in the tall backed chair. It feels so calm and special. Stops all the noise and the stress. All the questions in my head. Why, oh why, are there always so many questions? Sometimes, I feel as if my head is actually going to explode with them. I told a doctor this years ago, and he said that we could try a different prescription, but I got tired of the battles over the drugs. All the wretched side effects. It seems to me that drugs try to fix one thing, but simply create another problem. And then you need a different drug to fix the new problem. But do the doctors listen? Do they sympathize? No, they don't. Gotta pause real quick. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. I think I may look for a mobile next, to hit above the cot. When I was small, my mother used to sing this lullaby. I know the tune, but I can't for the life of me remember the words. I may look online. YouTube, perhaps? Imagine if I could find a mobile with the little elephants to match the duvet. That would be just perfect, wouldn't it? That would blank out what happened. All the blankness and the noise in my head. That would make things nice and calm again. 11 mobile with the white elephants. Yes, I'll look online. Maybe they sell one to match. That would be just perfect. And with that, I will go ahead and end the stream there. So, we're going to end the stream on chapter 17. I wanted to go a bit further than that, because I do know where the halfway mark was, but that was honestly wishful thinking. But, in any case, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream there. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Hope you guys enjoyed this, the first of what may be more than 2 parts of reading of my live stream of reading this book. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Forrest Walpole signing off. I hate how you gotta press the screen right there. It's kind of stupid, but whatever. See you guys later.